Thank everybody for showing up tonight to watch me leave. We have actually sort of like 3 meetings in one. We have the Crime Control Prevention District canvassing, the Fire Prevention District canvassing, and then the regular meeting. So there's a state law requires us to have public comments before each one. I know a lot of people signed up for public comment, but based on what we're seeing, it's going to be in the 3rd meeting that will happen. I do have one for that specifically mentions the Fire Control Committee. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with the first meeting, which is the Jersey Village Crime Control Prevention District. Start with item A. We're going to open the meeting, call the meeting to order, and announce that quorum is present. Madam Secretary, quorum is present?
Yes.
All right. Citizen comments. We do not have anyone signed up to speak for citizen comments for this particular component of the meeting. So we'll move on to item C, consider approval of the minutes of the Crime Control Prevention District CCPD meetings held on February 8th, 2021. Can I get a motion on this item?
Move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the topic? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Move on to item D, consider resolution number 2021-02, canvassing the returns of the Crime Control Prevention District special election held within the district's boundaries on the first day of May. All right, so we need all of the council members, all the board members to open your canvassing results. All right, for the totals, we have, for Proposition A, we have 917 votes for, 323 votes against. The official canvass of the returns of the Crime Control and Prevention District special election held on May 1st, 2021 reflect that a majority of the votes cast at the election were in favor of continuing the Jersey Village Crime Control and Prevention District for 5 years and continuing the Crime Control Prevention District sales and use tax for 5 years. I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2021-02, canvassing the returns, declaring the results of the Crime Control Prevention District special election held on May 1st, 2021, and declaring the district continued.
So
approve. I move to approve resolution number 2021-02.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the topic? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. This concludes the canvass of the special election held on May 1st, 2021 for the Jersey Village Crime Control Prevention District with a total of 1,288 votes. And with that, we're going to adjourn the CCPD meeting and move on to the next meeting. This is the the meeting of the temporary board of directors for the Jersey Village Fire Control Prevention and Emergency Medical Services District. And we're going to open the meeting and announce a quorum is present. Madam Secretary, a quorum is present.
Yes, there's a quorum present for City Council as well as the temporary board.
Thank you very much. Going to move into citizen comments. Any person who desires to address the City Council or the temporary board for the FCPEMSD regarding an item on the agenda will be heard at this time in compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act. Unless the subject matter of the comment is on the agenda, the city staff, City Council, or the FCPEMSD temporary board members are not allowed to discuss the subject. Each person is limited to 5 minutes for comments. I have one person signed up to speak. That is Mark Malloy.
My name's Mark Malloy, and I live at 7803 Hamilton Circle. And I just wanted to say up front that my son is a Cy-Fair fireman. And so anyway, the information I'm reading here is, you know, I've been a past city councilman for the city of Jersey Village, Texas. And basically I want my comments for the 05/10/2021 joint meeting of the Jersey Village City Council and the temporary board of the directors of the Jersey Village Fire Control Prevention and Emergency Medical Services District made a permanent record of this meeting. I'm speaking tonight to talk about the recent Jersey Village city election and about the way the Jersey Village government chose to write the proposition to ask the JV citizens if they would want to create a fire control prevention and medical services district. I want to ask the JV government why they didn't write the ballot proposition in the way that first asked the Jersey Village voters, do you want to abolish your half-cent sales tax for property tax relief funds so the Jersey Village government can create a fire control prevention and medical services district instead of the way it was written? I believe that many JV citizens didn't know what their half-cent sales tax for property tax relief fund was and didn't know that it existed. I believe that the Jersey Village government specifically wanted to do away with the Jersey Village citizens voters approved in the year 1995 half-cent sales tax for property tax relief fund because it was causing the Jersey Village government to not be able to receive as much of an increase in property tax revenue that would be created from increases in Harris County Appraisal District property valuation increases, not counting improved property within the city of Jersey Village, Texas. The Jersey Village government has now just recently been stifled even more in the way that they can take increases in property tax revenue due to the Texas state legislators' SB 2 2019 enacted property tax relief legislation that caps the Jersey Village government's property tax revenue increase to no more than 3.5% increase, not counting newly improved property, without the Jersey Village taxpayers' voters' approval during an election. The Jersey Village government found that over a recent 5-year period, that 3 out of the 5-year period, the property tax revenue would have been over the state of Texas legislature's 3.5% cap, and the Jersey Village government would have to get the Jersey Village taxpayers' voters' approval to take the additional property tax revenue. I believe the Jersey Village government does not want to have to ask the Jersey Village taxpayers' voters if they can have the additional property tax revenue. The Jersey Village government in the year 2015 received a 17.23% property tax revenue increase, which came to $1.2 million per the previous city manager. At that time, Jersey Village government kept all of the $1.2 million. I believe the Jersey Village government found that by getting the Jersey Village taxpayers to abolish their half-cent sales tax for property tax relief fund, it would be a win-win for the Jersey Village government because it will allow the JV government to receive a substantial increased amount of property tax revenue before they reach the state of Texas mandated 3.5% revenue cap, and it also frees up the current general fund revenue that has been funding the Jersey Village Fire Department, which the Jersey Village government has been doing currently and for all previous years to be used on other Jersey Village government uses that the Jersey Village citizens, taxpayers may or may not want the money to be used for. To me, it is a double negative whammy impacting the Jersey Village citizens' taxpayers' ability to control how much Jersey Village property tax revenue they have to pay. The Jersey Village government has said that they have not raised the tax rate for many years, but has somehow stockpiled an estimated $15 to $20 million for the Jersey Village government to spend without the citizens' ability to say where their tax dollars will be spent. That in and of itself should tell the Jersey Village citizens that they have been overtaxed. A perfect example is at this Jersey Village Council meeting where 3 current and 2 new council
Mark,
members
that's 5 minutes. Thank you very much for your time.
will decide to spend up to $10 million
Break the rules
on a
and
new
keep
city
going.
hall that will be located on
Sounds
the
like
south
Mark
side
Malloy.
of
Thank you very
US
much.
290.
Thank you very much. All right, going to move on to item C, consider ordinance number 2021-20, canvassing the returns of the joint special election held within the district's boundaries by the city of Jersey Village and the district on the first day of May 2021. Need all the directors to go ahead and open up your canvassing envelope. For Proposition A, we have 725 votes for and 508 votes against. For Proposition B, we have 772 votes for, 454 votes against. The official canvass of the returns of the City of Jersey Village and the temporary board of the Fire Control Prevention and Emergency Medical Services District joint special election held on May 1st, 2021 reflected a majority of the votes cast at the election were in favor of creating the district, approving the adoption of a sales tax at a rate of 0.5%, 0.5%, and to fund the district, approving the abolition of the 0.5%, 0.5% sales tax for property tax relief, and approving the ability of council to adopt an ordinance naming the council and city manager as the board of directors for the district. I'm looking for a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-20, canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the City of Jersey Village and the temporary board of the Fire Control Prevention and Emergency Medical Services District joint special election held on May 1st, 2021.
I move that we approve ordinance 2021-20, canvassing the returns to the joint special election.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the topic? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. This concludes the canvass of the joint special election held on May 1st, 2021 for the City of Jersey Village and the temporary board of the Fire Control Prevention and Emergency Medical Services District with a total of 1,288 voters. And with that, we are going to adjourn this meeting and move into the regular session. I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Jersey Village City Council on Monday, May 10th, 2021. I'm going to call the meeting to order and announce a quorum is present. Madam Secretary, quorum is present.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move into the invocation and pledge of allegiance. We have the prayer by Drew Wasson, council member, place 1, and pledge by Victoria Wasson. Hey, Vivi, how you doing?
Please join me. Do I have to press down here? No? Please join me in the invocation. Almighty God, tonight there's so much for which we're grateful. Thank you for the people and environment that make our community of Jersey Village. We thank you for our diligent city staff and brave first responders who serve to support our residents. We're grateful for the freedoms we have and the brave men and women who defend them daily as they serve in our armed forces at home and abroad. We're eternally grateful for and honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our freedoms. We ask that you help us bridge the divides in our world, nation, and community through understanding, respect, and civil conversation. Remind us to give others and ourselves grace. May you provide wisdom unto this council, including those who begin their new roles of service tonight, and to our city staff and our civic leaders. Please grant us the strength to do what is right, not just what is easy, and help us be constantly mindful of those we serve and the reason we do so. God, please continue to bless Jersey Village and this great state of Texas, and God bless these United States of America. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Outstanding job. Very good. Okay, we're going to move into item C, election items. And item number 1 is discussion with possible action to consider ordinance number 2021-21, canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the general election and special election held on May 1st, 2021 for the purpose of electing a mayor and 2 city council members, place 2 and place 3, and submitting the qualified to the qualified voters of the city propositions to amend the city charter related to amendments to section 2.12, publication of ordinances, gender neutral language, elimination of section 1.08 and 1.09 concerning red light cameras, and amendments to section 2.01, number, selection, and term of office, and ordering that the home rule charter is officially amended. Okay, need all council members to open your ballot canvas. For the race of mayor, Bobby Warren received 926 votes, Marilee Beasley 320 votes. Council member place number 2, Del Humbert 212 votes, Kamal Khan, 344 votes. Sherry Shepard, 662 votes. For Councilmember place number 3, Michelle Mitchum, 689 votes. Ashley Brown, 576 votes. Charter Amendment Proposition A, 898 yes votes, 362 no votes. Charter Amendment Proposition B, 822 yes votes, 441 no votes. Charter Amendment Proposition C, 996 yes votes, 260 no votes. Charter Amendment Proposition D, 731 yes votes, 523 no votes. The official canvass of the returns of the general election and special elections held on May 1st, 2021 reflects that the following persons were duly elected to the respective positions. Mayor Bobby Warren, Councilmember Place 2, Sherry Shepard, Councilmember Place 3, Michelle Mitchum. Proposition A was approved by a majority of the qualified voters. Proposition B was approved by a majority of the qualified voters. Proposition C was approved by a majority of the qualified voters. Proposition D was approved by a majority of the qualified voters. I'm looking for a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-21, canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the general and special municipal elections held May 1st, 2021 official.
I'll move to approve resolution 2021-21.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the topic? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. This concludes the canvass of the general election and special elections held on May 1st, 2021 for the city of Jersey Village with a total of 1,288 voters. The next two items on the agenda will be taken together, and I will invite the elected council members and new mayor to meet at the front of the council dais to receive election certificates and take their oaths, which will be given by the city secretary. All right. Congratulations. We're going to move to item 4, recognition and presentation of service awards. Greg, let's do it. I know. It's more comfortable up there. All right. Greg, just wanted to say thank you for your years of service, and thank you for being a mentor to me. I watched you for about a year before I got on council. I sat in the audience and were there the night that you were that you took over the seat that you've been in. And I heard about your history on council before, but it wasn't until I actually got on council that I learned just how valuable your history on council is to this city. I really learned it when we were in mediation, and we were there all day. And what you did was explained our goals clearly, our goals for that day, and you made sure that we kept on track. And you always provided an outside-the-box proposition, bits and pieces that we ultimately put together. And the result is something that we're celebrating to this day. And you did the same in budget workshops. Really, if you want to know Greg, you have to spend a few summer weekends with Greg in a budget workshop. As thrilling as it sounds, but whenever we may stray a little off topic, whenever we may have different ideas, or sometimes there's a big difference between a few people on council, you seem to be the one that always throws out the bits and pieces of a compromise, and it comes together. Your vast experience as a business owner, employer, builder, and of course a husband and father helped craft policy for our city that has resulted in the great things we take for granted today, and set the table for all the possibilities, the incredible possibilities in our near future, except street sweepers. Street sweepers. We can get in debates on street sweepers. But we stand on the shoulders of all the leaders before us, and it was an honor to serve with you, a true legend, and stand on your shoulders, and I thank you for your service. I wish you and your family the absolute best, and I hope you know that we as a city owe you a great deal of gratitude for your many years of service. So, thank you, Greg.
Well, now it's, here, come on over here, man. I'm not going to try to repeat a lot of what's been repeated before about our now former mayor, Andrew Mitchum. You get to keep that. Okay. I think the hallmark of any good public servant is to have a heart for service. Not just, it's not about ambition, it's not about striving to be in the public limelight. Frankly, the public part, although very important, is not the most important part of being a public servant. It's the servant aspect. And I think it is hard to find anyone in this city, not just that have served on this council, but that have lived in this city, particularly for someone as young as Andrew is, to truly exemplify the heart of a servant. Prior to even being on council, he served, I believe, 8 years in the U.S. Army. When he got out, he moved back to his hometown of Jersey Village, started a family, and over time, he sought for ways to be able to improve his community, and the opportunity came to serve on city council, and he did so with tremendous distinction, earned the respect of all of his colleagues over the years, and was elected mayor 2 years ago. I actually knew Andrew before he even got on council. We became friends through a little thing he started that's now taken on a life of its own called Dad's Driveways and Drafts. Those of you in Jersey Village probably are very familiar with it, but in case you don't know, it's sort of an opportunity for guys to get out of the house once a month, share a little bit of their favorite craft beer that they may have found, and have a chance to socialize and network. And lo and behold, that little thing that started off with a couple guys in a driveway has turned into a way for men in this community to socialize, to have fellowship, and at least based on some of the members on council, apparently also to encourage others to give back to the community. And so thank you for contributing to the community, not just through council, but in so many other ways. The thing is, although his time as a public official is coming to an end, I assure you that his service to this community is just getting started. He's now owner of, dare I say, one of the more successful businesses in the city with the Senate Avenue Brewing Company. Whereas people talk about wanting to give back to the community and trying to add to the community, he put his money where his mouth was. He and his wife put their money into the community that they believed in so much. A community sometimes that people wondered whether or not it would support something like a small brewery. Well, if you haven't been there lately, trust me, this community supports that brewery. And I think that his sense of duty to the community, his love for the community, I know every once in a while, I make fun of him for it sometimes, he sometimes can let the passion for his community maybe come out in ways that are less than diplomatic at times. But I don't find that necessarily a fault. I think that his love for his community, for this city, is so strong that, man, sometimes it comes out in the most, Norwegians have a speaking about speaking from the liver. He speaks from the liver on occasion, and I know that it comes from a good place. So, Andrew, thank you for your service. I appreciate everything you've done, and I can't wait to see what more you decide to do for the community. Here you go. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let me give my public comment. I just had a few people I wanted to thank before I waltz out of here. First of all, I want to thank our city staff, all you guys. Robert and Josh, Parks and Rec, thank you for kickball. That was fun. Isabel, thank you very much for answering all my emails about numbers. You are absolutely spot on with everything. I appreciate that. Bob and Andy in IT, the hardest working guys in the city. I know your pain as an IT consultant. So thank you so much for keeping us running smooth and the network secure and everything that you're doing to keep everything running so smooth. Harry Ward didn't spend a lot of time with you, but thank you so much for your service. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and seeing all these projects that are kicking off. Thank you so much. Matt and Jennifer, I have to shout out down at the golf course for helping me with my golf game. I love hearing the Employee of the Month every single month because there's so many people who work for this city that we could sit up here for a whole day and name names, but they always do a fantastic job. It's great to know that we have just such a gung-ho group of people that are here to work and do great things for our citizens, and they care deeply. I want to thank our police chief and our fire chief. Thank you very much for everything that you guys do. Mark, you've been our fire chief for quite a long time, and I remember taking my tour when I got on council of the fire department, and everything was top notch and ready to go. And you inspire, and you're a great leader. And Chief Riggs, I want to thank you for coming on board. It hasn't been much time spent together, but you're always there for a phone call to answer any questions that I have. And usually when I'm calling, you know what I'm calling about, so that's good. I want to thank Frank Marr. I don't know if he's here tonight. Oh, he's out of town. Well, one time I got a phone call from Frank Marr just to tell me I was doing a good job, and it literally made my week. And I actually dropped the phone and told my wife, Frank Marr told me good job. So Frank Marr has been on the volunteer fire department 46 years. If there's ever a street name that comes up for naming, it definitely needs to be Marr Street. So I just want to say thanks to Frank. Past city council members, past mayors, past board members, there's a lot of you in the room tonight. I want to thank you all for your leadership and guidance and filling me in on the history of a lot of things. I was gone for 8 years, a gap in between my graduation from high school and coming back. So getting that history when I was making decisions and trying to figure out a path forward was really great to have. So thank you all so much. Rod Erskine, Steve Schneider, Justin Ray, of course. Rick Faircloth is in here. Thank you, Rick. Barbie Freeman, Carrie Lawrence. Thank you all so much, and I appreciate it. I want to thank my parents right there for moving us to Jersey Village. I wouldn't know about it if we didn't live here. I want to thank you so much. You guys gave me a great childhood, and want to replicate it for my kids. So that's my striving, my passion comes out, but that's what I love about this place, and you guys introduced me to it. So thank you so much. All the local business owners that I've come in contact with, especially during COVID, where we worked together to figure out how to keep your businesses alive. I actually cried up on council because my wife and I are both business owners, and we were impacted tremendously by Harvey. Amber, you as well. And it got me choked up when we were talking to business owners that just did not know what to do, but it was nice that most of them are still in business and thriving, and it was great to see the community come together and support them all. So I want to thank them for taking a chance on our city and contributing so much, not just in sales tax revenue, but also just the spirit of our community. So thank you so much to all of you that I've met. I want to thank, in particular though, I want to thank the Gordon Partners, who are the developers of the shopping center over on Jones and 290. They've worked with the city a few times to bring in better restaurants like Chick-fil-A, and they've done a really good job of partnering with the city on Chapter 380 agreements, to know what the city can be, and they've done a great job. I also want to give a shout out to the Dillard family. They've done a fantastic job of building office space and attracting new employers to the city, and the resulting Chapter 380 agreements are millions of dollars a year in our general fund, and it's because of them, their vision for the city. They've lived here for a long time, and it's always great to give them a shout out because they care for their land, and they want to see the city achieve more, and they know it can, and they've turned down a lot of land deals for things that were not desirable to the community so that more desirable things come in. I want to thank them for basically making that sacrifice, but it's paying off for them, and I thank them for their friendship. My incredible friends I've made throughout the years. I see some of you in the audience. I want to say thank you so much for having a beer with me in the driveway and playing some golf, terrible golf, and you always help me laugh through the hard times. So thank you. Let's see, Justin Ray, thank you very much for continuously vacating seats so I could take them over. I appreciate that, and for allowing me to piggyback on your vision for our city for so many years. It was a pleasure having your campaign office next to my brewery. There were many times that I witnessed Justin sit down with a total stranger and talk for an hour or 2 hours on issues, and he's the type of guy who will absolutely talk your ear off in order to not even earn your vote, but just make you understand what he stands for. And I can't wait to see you do bigger, better things, and I know you will. So thank you very much for that. Let's see, Gary Woodenhorse for being our golf tournament ringer. Whenever we go play golf as a city, he's always on our team, and he makes us look somewhat good. So thank you very much for that. I also want to thank you for your service on Jersey Village Fire Department for so many years. You showed up one night in the middle of the night when a tree branch fell on our power line and our house tried to kill us. And he waited up till 3 in the morning waiting for Centerpoint to show up. He didn't have to stay there, but he did, and I appreciate you for that. So thank you so much.
I have that written down.
I know. I may owe you a beer, too. I appreciate that. Drew Wasson, thank you for stepping up to serve. I also want to thank you for your friendship between our families. Vivi, you have a crazy arm that was exhibited during the Hit the Mayor with a Snowball fight. She literally struck fear into my heart. So keep cultivating that. I think there's a softball scholarship in her future. So thank you so much. You're an independent voice on council, and I really hope to see you up there for many years to come. So thank you for that. James Singleton, thank you so much for letting me make tall jokes all the time. But also, I just want to thank you for involving me in all the help that you do around the city. I think you're the most helpful person, bar none, around the city. And the fact that you would call me and say, hey, I need this, I need that. It was just great to be involved. So thank you so much for that. And also, thank you for letting me borrow your entire family during the ice storm. And I'm a charter member and president of your fan club. So thank you, James. Bobby Warren, thank you so much for proofreading and fact-checking everything I've ever done. over the last 2 years. I really liked doing our Not a Quorum Facebook Lives, and I missed doing that during COVID, but also allowing me to be the one to drink beers while we're doing it. I also want to thank you for your friendship, your mentorship, and also making me comfortable that our new mayor knows what the heck he's doing. But above and beyond, I want to thank you for my friendship with Taryn, who I really loved her calling me her favorite city council member for so many years. I appreciate that. Austin, buddy, thank you so much for taking a chance on our little town after we took a chance on you. You moved here from Maine and put down your roots with your family here, just a few feet from here, as a matter of fact. Austin's the CEO of the city. He has built an incredible team who respect him and work hard for him. He knows how to provide motivation. He knows how to juggle dozens of projects at the same time. I don't know how you do that, whether it's big or small. He's brought in over $10 million in flood mitigation grants. He always knows what's going on and usually knows when I'm calling, you know what I'm calling about. And you answer every question that I have. Hiring you was by far the best decision our city's made over the last 6 years. So thank you so much. I want to thank my wife and kids. Thank you so much for giving me so much love and encouragement over the years. Ha! Not gonna cry. Thank you for putting up with my absences in order to serve. My daughters are my motivation for everything I do, and I'm glad I got to be mayor of their hometown. So thank you. But lastly, as I blubber on, I want to thank the citizens of this city for everything you've given to me. This city's given me everything, and I thank you so much for sharing a beer with me, giving me a call, sending me an email. I'm no longer your mayor, but I will always serve you and our village in some way. And I just want to say thank you very much. Our city can do anything that's been put in front of us over the last 6 years. We've not just beaten, we've conquered it. Highway 290 construction, flood mitigation, lowering taxes, we've done it. And let's keep it going. We can do anything if we put our minds to it, and we know that we can. We have to know that we can. So thank you all so much for allowing me to serve you. Cheers. With that, we're going to take a quick recess. We can have some cookies and chips and drinks, and then the new council members will take their seats.
Okay, folks, welcome back. We are going to resume the regular session at 7:58 p.m. Next up, item D, citizen comments. Citizens who have signed a card and wish to speak to the City Council will be heard at this time in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Unless the subject matter of the comment is on the agenda, the city staff and City Council members are prevented from discussing the subject and may respond only with statements of factual information or existing policy. Citizens are limited to 5 minutes for their comments to City Council, and I will just add there is a large stack of comment cards, so please be respectful of everyone waiting to speak and for those here at the meeting by keeping your comments within the allotted time. The first card I have is from Ashley Brown.
Ashley Brown, 15602 Lakeview. I first wanted to publicly thank everybody who spent 20 hours counting for our election this past. I think, David called me the next day and he said there's no way anything bad could have happened, and I really appreciate all of your guys' leadership and, making sure that was on. So I really appreciate that, and I wanted to publicly thank everyone's team. I would really encourage you guys to vote no on the contract for the construction of City Hall, with no money being exchanged. And after the town hall that the mayor provided, the comment from the developer was that it would be piecemeal and not all $8 million up front at once. And with half the town not wanting it to move and the other half probably wanting you to really spend our money wisely, please don't approve something when they have not paid the $8 million that they promised, because I mean, our monies something could happen to the economy and it could vanish, and we could need that money for something else important. And if we don't have it, then we shouldn't be building across City Hall anyway, across the 290. And I just think that signing that contract with 9 days notice from May 5th to May 14th, they have sub price on theirs, but they haven't got any bids for subs. It's careless. It's careless with our money, and you were entrusted, the 3 new people and the 3 old people were entrusted to do what was right by our city, and you should spend that money like it's your own. And unless you like taking those kind of risks, you shouldn't risk that with our money. So that was it.
Thank you, Ashley. The next citizen I have speaking is Mark Malloy.
I've already said my name's Mark Malloy, and I've been a past city council member for the city of Jersey Village. And, I've been to many city council meetings over the years that I've lived here since 2007. And basically, I do live over along the White Oak Bayou channel down near Beltway 8, where the water has to get through the bridge openings to basically not create the flooding problem that we have here in Jersey Village. And so anyway, basically over the years, I've talked about the golf course. It's Jersey Meadows Golf Course, and there's a lot of people that are here at this meeting, and basically, over the time that I've been coming to these meetings, there's been very few citizens that have attended these meetings to hear anything that I've said about what's going on with the Jersey Meadows Golf Course. And so basically what ended up happening is back in the year 2000, the city used what's called certificates of obligation to purchase the golf course, which meant that the citizens were not allowed to vote through a bond referendum to decide if they wanted to spend the money to purchase the golf course. And so anyway, now what's happened is we now have 704 acres of extraterritorial jurisdiction that the city has over on the south side of US 290. And their plan is to eventually, sometime over many years in the future, incorporate a majority of that area into the city of Jersey Village, Texas. And so basically what they're doing now is they have created a village center development project, and they're, wanting to develop that into areas that will be covered with concrete. It will add additional flood runoff to the city of Jersey Village because the area is a E127 channel and E135 channel, and both of those channels drain from the south side of US 290 to the north side of US 290 through the city of Jersey Village. Each one of those conveyance channels, one of them runs along the south side of the golf course and the other one runs along the north side of the golf course. And so basically, we're doing improvements to try to mitigate flooding in the area, but unless the city actually does effective flood control mitigation on the designs and development of the area on the other side of 290, they will add additional water that will be coming through Jersey Village. And so basically the city has taken and decided that they've got a plan to mitigate the flooding, and the way they're going to do it is they're going to build a berm around the golf course, and they're going to take and they're going to utilize a pump that's somewhere around $700,000 to locate, I guess, downstream east of the golf course to take and during flooding events pump the water back up into the golf course berm to prevent or mitigate the flooding of the Jersey Village area. Originally, when the city decided to maybe take and consider building a berm around the golf course, the engineering firm that came up with the plan said that they should build the elevation of the golf course berm at 111 feet above base sea level at top of bank berm level. Okay, then the city took and they hired another engineering firm after the tax day flood, and that engineering firm came up with a elevation height for the berm. And the city decided that they would not want to build a berm at either one of those heights, so they ended up having a survey done of the golf course, and then they hired the original engineering firm to take and come up with a plan to somehow build the berm at a lower elevation. So basically now what they're doing is they're building the berm at a 4.5
Mark, that's
foot
time.
reduced elevation. So anyway, I'm just trying to say that I don't think that what they're doing is going to solve the flooding problem.
Thank you, Mark. The next card I have is from Bill Edwards.
Bill Edwards, 16001 Jersey. I would recommend that the council vote against this contract that's coming up here for construction. I really don't see why we should commit $10 million plus the $8 million we've spent on the land and just leaving it out there hanging without the other partners also contributing and putting some, as they say, skin in the game. I would ask you not to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next, I have Christine Gill.
Hi, I'm Christine Gill. I live at 16117 Congo Lane. I too am asking that you vote no for this contract. As Bill had said, I feel like Collaborate should have some skin in the game with this. It's been said by others. I believe one person on council has specifically said this as well. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Christine. Next is John Bockham.
Hello, everyone. John Bockham, 15325 Chichester. I served as the alternate judge for the election. I just wanted to thank all of the election workers, especially our presiding judge, Barbie Freeman, city staff. Everyone did a great job making sure we have free, fair, and accurate elections. And congratulations to the new mayor, city council members. Also, I'm happy to see the red light camera as somebody that petitioned for that back in the day. I'm glad to see that finally out of our ordinances here in Jersey Village. And also wanted to encourage you as you move into your budget retreat to consider starting with an increase to the homestead exemption to the max allowable 20%. Also looking to expand and increase the other exemptions available as well. And on the contract for City Hall, you know, I haven't spoken much about this because there's a lot that we're not privy to that potentially happens behind closed doors. You know, I see both the merits and the risk of a village center. But what is clear is Jersey Village has stepped up to the table at every turn. And I think with multiple contracts that we've authorized the city to enter into that have not been executed, the land has not been sold. Even as last week, it was unclear how, when, if the parcels would be divided, how they would be divided. What portion of that, you know, do we have a survey now of where City Hall will be that we're going to construct for this contract? The city owns all the land now, so that would be reserved, or initially it was said that all the land would be sold and that would be donated back to us. So I think there's a lack of clarity and potentially a lack of, well, I don't want to say a lack of support, but something needs to happen to execute the contracts to begin the sale of the land, whether it's in whole or in piecemeal. Something should happen more quickly. So with that, thanks for everything, and good luck with y'all's term, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, John, and thank you for your service during the election. Next, I have Dorothy Starkey. Oh, sorry, that is on here. Or yeah, Deb Morello.
And she couldn't be here tonight, so she got called away. So I'm just going to read what she has said. Many who have lived here fewer than 20 years do not realize that the last time a major city facility was built, a vote of the taxpayers approving that expenditure was required. The city was able to persuade the voters to finance both the police and fire department buildings by presenting the merits of these expenditures and winning the votes of the taxpayers. This is a good practice as it promotes buy-in for the projects and builds trust in the decision makers. How unfortunate that this example was not followed with the proposed city hall. I understand that putting our tax dollars in an earmarked fund removes the need for taxpayer approval, but just because you can bypass the taxpayers does not mean that you should. You are seeing the consequences of the decision now, and you can count on living with the effects. Your obligation is to the taxpayers who have paid into this capital expenditures account for nearly 2 decades, and not to the developer who has been unable to meet the multiple deadlines to complete the purchase of the JV's parcels. Our city hall is not a participation trophy, unless council wants to finance it with their own funds instead of ours. Trust in council has been seriously eroded by the continuous push to prop up this project when it should be succeeding on its own merits. You cannot blame the taxpayers for wondering what the motive is to push this development when the merits are very difficult to ascertain. Calling an architecture firm a developer does not make it so, as we are now discovering. And calling a village center a destination does not make that a reality. The land may be attractive to a well-qualified developer at some point in the future, but for now, walk away before any more of the city's money is put at risk. If you have to constantly explain the merits of what it looks like to be an insane and losing investment, better rethink whether your motives are as sound as you think. I hope you all think about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Next, I have Jim Fields.
Hello, my name is Jim Fields. I live at 16413 St. Helier. I want to thank Mayor and City Council for allowing me to participate into tonight's meeting. Please say no to the contract on building the Village Center. I found it really outrageous that a petition that had over 800 votes was provided to the city and it was rejected on very small language in there. So that shows me that their insincerity of this project. And again, as said before, it questions your motive. Another thing, I remember attending one meeting when we'd hired a consultant to talk about the building of Village Center. His first thing was, you can't do that, that's an industrial area. I agree. I used to work for O'Reilly's Auto Parts, part-time delivering, and less than a mile away, there's a concrete plant. Less than a mile away. Even less than that, a half mile away, there's a smelting plant, a place where they recycle metal and they melt it down when less than a half mile away. On top of that, we have a railroad tracks that are going to be within 200 yards. This is complete insanity, and I don't understand it. And I'm asking you to vote no. But again, to disavow 800 people's decision on buying this, just completely ignoring it, is absolutely outrageous and unconscionable. My second point is, Councilwoman Mitchum, congratulations on your bid. However, I do have concerns on your political inclinations towards the Democrat, our President, Biden. All the Democrats cities that vote or support Biden are on fire, and they're asking to defund the police. I'm hoping that if that referendum ever comes across council's desk, that you will vote no. And Police Chief Riggs, thank you very much for your service. You're not forgotten, and we are always appreciative of your men and women putting their lives on the line to protect us. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, I have Cheryl DeForge.
I'm Cheryl DeFord, 16309 Lakeview Drive. I've lived in Jersey Village for, 45 years. So I remember vividly the bond elections for the new police station and the city and the fire station. I also remember the bond election prior to that, where it was bundled together. Instead of 3 votes, it was bundled together with 1 vote that included a new city hall. It was voted by the voters, and including me, to pay off those bonds and then get a new city hall. Including me, I think we need a new city hall. But many people, I would say 845 valid signatures, think that the city hall should stay where the people are, not where maybe there are future people across the railroad tracks. It should stay where the people right now are. Whether it's here on this spot, whether it's on Diller Drive, it needs to stay on this side. And the fact that you want to throw out a petition, a valid petition, that the Secretary of State Attorney says is valid, and it was done by the book, that lends people like me to think y'all are as corrupt as hell and there's some money changing hands over there. You know, I'm gonna tell you, that's what I think. It's not, doesn't look good for you, for your credibility. What are you afraid of having an election? You need to answer that to the people. So please vote no on this proposal to sign a contract with a developer for the city hall across the freeway. I don't have any bones to pick with the people who want to build it. If you want them to build, if you want Brookstone to build a new city hall over on this side, go for it if you think they're the most qualified company. But they're going to get embroiled with a contingency of citizens who despise them because something is being forced on them across the freeway. And you as councilmen are part of this, because I've talked to many people, and you want to say, we can't develop across 290 unless the city hall is there. It should stand as a viable economic center on its own regard without the city hall being there. And you need to think about that. You're tearing the city apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Kimling Soon.
Good evening, council and neighbors. My name is Kimling Sun, and I live at 16330 Acapulco Drive, and I've been a resident of JV since 2006. Before I begin, council, I want to take time to thank you for all you do for our city and always being available by email, by phone, for a cup of coffee or a beer to hear our citizens' thoughts. We appreciate all the time you give and continue to make JV a great place. I'm coming to you today, like last month, still in support of construction of City Hall at Village Center. I believe that it is a sound move for our city. I'm here today to speak to you about the contract scheduled to be executed between City Manager Austin Blease and Brookstone LP for the construction of a new City Hall. As my father is a retired contractor, I very much understand how bids work and why subs have not been bidded out. It's how it's done in the industry. I very much understand the timeliness of the deal, as construction costs have been rising, and those in the industry feel they would continue to steadily increase through the fall. I very much understand the need to lock in the costs and understand the $10 million cap in the contract is to prevent the city from incurring more cost due to the rise in material. I think that the execution of such a contract is necessary. As a citizen, however, what gives me pause is the timing of the execution of this contract. It is my understanding that Collaborate has neither signed their contract nor placed earnest money down towards this land purchase. I respectfully ask council to consider asking Collaborate to put forth a sum of earnest money as a show of good faith, maybe $500,000, which is just a tad over 5% of the total purchase price. This sum would then offset the possible cost that may be incurred by the execution Brookstone LP contract while the city waits for the finalization of the Collaborate contract. I believe asking Collaborate to put forth earnest money of a mere $500,000 might put more citizens like myself at ease about the city entering into an agreement with Brookstone LP before the Collaborate purchase is finalized. Thank you for all your time and all you do for our city.
Thank you, Kimling. Next, I have Connie Rossi.
Good evening, I'm Connie Rossi. I live at 15926 Lakeview Drive. I'm here to ask City Council to deny the proposed resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Brookstone for the construction of a new city hall. But I feel like council doesn't care. I'm not quite sure why City Council is in such a hurry to get the project going without a blessing from half of its residents. Maybe you all have a stake in it. Maybe you want something to be remembered by. Maybe you're trying to fulfill the dreams of former council members. I guess none of us will ever know. What is extremely disappointing is that our city government doesn't seem to concern itself with what the other half really has to say. The lack of full disclosure and transparency is suspicious, and it seems like there is a hair in the butter. When all of you are gone, the residents of Jersey Village will be left with a wellness center, an apartment complex, and a hotel to contend with, all of which Jersey Village already has. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Next, I have James McDonald.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations to the new council member and Bobby. My name is James McDonald, and I'm at 16306 Acapulco, and as Kim Lane can attest, that's the best side of Acapulco. What's up? You may also know me as the TERS number 2 chairperson, Cub Scout Pack 1177 Cub Master, Special Olympics coach, or supreme leader of the Senate Avenue Brewery Run Club. But I'm here to speak as the newly elected president of the JV Appreciation Committee. This is a new organization that was created by me and only has one member. Our mission is to find and recognize those who are working to make Jersey Village a better place, and this year's nominees include the following. Candidates for the 2021 election: Sherry Shepard, Del Humbert, Kamal Khan, Ashley Brown, Michelle Mitchum, Marilee Beasley, and Bobby Warren. These citizens stepped up and stepped out to work to make JV a better place in their vision. According to my sources on Nextdoor, not all of these people agree on how to go about making this decision. But they still put themselves out there and put the work in to advance their vision. Up next is Austin Blease. Him and his team have put word on paper and brought in millions of dollars, which I found out now is 10 million, in federal funds to reduce flooding risk here in JV. And last but not least, the nominee is Mr. Donut. He makes one of the best apple fritters you will ever put in your mouth. After tallying all of the vote, the winner for the 2020 election is Austin Blease. Congratulations. Because of your hard work in finding a source of funding, he has brought in over $10 million to offset the cost for golf course berm and the Wall Street projects, among other things I cannot remember. Congratulations, Austin. Unfortunately, our committee funding is very low, and the best I can provide is a free beer on Tuesdays at 7 after you run with the Senate Avenue Brewery Running Club. Next on my agenda is to say thank you to Andrew and Greg for your time on council. Thank you, Greg. I'm mad at you for not giving me a shout out in your farewell speech. Lastly, to close up my agenda, I would like to talk to the citizens. Dramatic turn. All those in attendance here show a passion for this city. Why else would you be here on a Monday night to see a bunch of volunteers talk, second things, and hit a piece of wood with a wooden hammer? We all should find common ground this year to help the divide in this great town. We can't and shouldn't agree on everything, but there is much more to you and me and City Council than this boring politics stuff. Let's put that passion together in other ways. Let's build a community garden. Let's get more people to come out to the best running club in Jersey Village at Senate Avenue Brewery Running Club on Tuesdays at 7. Let's help those that are less fortunate in our community. Sure, I support City Hall moving if it helps to secure development across 290, and you may not, but that is fine. But I know you aren't a bad person. You bring your child to my scout meetings, or you volunteer your time at the swim meet, or you help your neighbor in need during a freeze and provide food, warmth, and a pipe clamp when needed. If we all look for the positive in those we disagree with the most, we can help JV go to new places while we achieve the common goals that we do have, like supporting our police and fire and EMT, not to leave them out, community events, flood mitigation, and most importantly, getting the city funding to provide free lawn care to all those in Jersey Village. So I urge each of you, every citizen, every member of council, the mayor, past and present, let's engage in positive discussions with kindness, honesty, and facts. We can build bridges with those we disagree with, but we have to put the effort in and try. P.S. I'd like to nominate myself for Mayor Pro Tem. What's up? Thank you.
James, that might be one of the best citizen comments we've had in a very long time.
James, I'm going to need you to prepare your material for next month. Get started now. Thank you. Next up, I have Michael Stembridge.
Michael Stembridge, 15422 Jersey Drive. My family and I are still seeking a FEMA home elevation for our home that flooded, or a FEMA reconstruction if the flood maps should change by chance due to the work that's being done. We are worried. We're happy for the people upstream, Wall Street, Crawford, E127, which I don't see it starting yet, but I'm sure it's coming along. That's going to widen it up, and I know there's policies that prevent it, but we worry about more water coming downstream. And we were on the elevations list, but then somehow got pushed back or removed. I'm not sure which. So flood mitigation is a big issue to me and my family. When it rains, my child screams. In the night, I pull weeds and try to drain off the backyard any way I can. My wife is averse to water. She doesn't like to go swimming anymore. The pool, the beach, nothing. I am against the contract, the resolution with Brookstone, but because I want the petition to be honored as valid. This is a constitutional and a charter process. I don't think our founders would have put this ability into the charter if they didn't agree with using it like a Stanley tool sometimes when it's needed. A lot of people sign this petition, and it should be honored as valid. They want the city hall here. I want the city hall here. I think it could be refurbished or fixed somehow, or maybe a new one put here, maybe 2-3 stories high, green efficient. I have another idea. I'm worried about this village center because I think it might become a ghost mall. I'm worried about the water runoff into E127 up here, over there. And I'm saying, if you're going to do retail, which everybody's doing e-commerce now, that's just my opinion, why not do a green flood mitigation casino? I mean, you could do it like the native tribes do, just as an example. A state law could be passed. I sent this idea to John Rosenthal. I never heard back, but he's probably busy. The state could legislate to where the money could go to the cities and counties that flooded. They could be called green and flood mitigation casinos. Water could be trapped. It could be contained, not run off. It could be put into water tanks and pumped into a hydrogen power plant. Jersey Village can make hydrogen electric power over there. There's a grid. There's a right of way. You could use superconductivity wires, shoot it over to where City Hall is. There could be a charging station over here by the fire department. Solar panels, wind turbines, green energy. And this thing could be vertical. The parking garage could be underneath it. So you have vertical. You're using vertical space. So you keep soil. You keep as much horizontal absorption space as possible. Three layers of parking garage, and then the casino's wider along with the base, the garage, and then the casino could be 2 floors, and then up high you have the tower. Everybody could see it on the freeway. You have a runoff. You have a lane that runs off to it, and like I said, the money could go. Don't use the car lot model. Nix that. We don't make any money that way. The city. It all goes to the state. This has to be a thing where the legislators come together and the governor. There's Republicans and Democrats wanting to legalize right now, wanting to legalize gaming, and they want it to all go to the state, to the schools. That's good. But Jersey Village needs money, okay? People have complained about the city said we have difficulty with the FEMA list. We have difficulty with the elevations. Well, why not do something ourselves? And people could choose an elevation or a reconstruction, even if they live in the floodway like us. That money, that casino money could go into elevations, reconstructions. You could elevate and reconstruct people, get those 162 homes out of harm's way. The state would have to legislate to where the city gets like 20, 50%, maybe all of it. If the city owns the casino, maybe all of it. But the water has to be contained. The water could be trapped. It could be contained into water tanks, pumped into a hydrogen plant, solar panels, wind turbines, green energy, and the city could broker that energy. There's people wanting to buy cheap electricity. There's all kinds of things going on. You know, a guy here told me, an old guy, real smart, you know, you're burning coal down at the power plant. There's dirty things, nasty things going on down at the power plant. You know, coal and stuff like that. When you plug in that electric car, you know, clean energy could solve that. It could help to solve that.
That's time, Mike.
Okay. I don't know if I'll leave you with this. I don't know if there's anywhere in the Bible about a parable about a Christian sinning to help another Christian. But that's what this would basically be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Simon Hughes.
Simon Hughes, 15409 Lakeview. Members of council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, I'm here to recommend that City Council oppose the resolution on agenda item H10 because the city has not been repaid the $8.2 million it spent to purchase the land. Until the land is sold to a developer, the construction contract that Brookstone, that the city proposes entering with Brookstone is premature. Gary, you and I spoke this morning, and you said the reason Collaborate had not purchased the $8.2 million in land is because Collaborate's top-tier financing had gone away. I said, you mean Oppenheimer? And you said, no. Collaborate's investors who were providing the money to buy the land, they backed out during the pandemic. You also sent an email to Deb Moriello saying the same thing. Collaborate lost their high-end investors when the pandemic started, and that's why the city had to buy the land. So as we sit here today, Collaborate, the master developer that the city has selected for this project, does not have the cash or the high-end investors with the wherewithal to move forward. Not only is the city left holding the $8.2 million in land, but it also now wants to approve a construction contract to spend $10 million to build City Hall. Now, instead of the plan to sell the property to Collaborate in one or two large parcels, the city plans to piecemeal it out. I asked Gary, does NewQuest or the Wellness MOB Group even have a binding agreement with Collaborate? And Gary, you told me this morning, you'll have to ask Austin that. Plus, that's Collaborate's business, that's not ours. You know what? It's definitely the city's business whether the co-developers are committed to this project, particularly since every day the city is looking more and more like the developer rather than a public partner. The plan now seems to be that the city will hold the land indefinitely and sell portions of it only when Collaborate and the co-developers need it. As Gary said in his email to Deb, Jersey Village is not selling the property to Collaborate, but rather to individual investors looking to locate a business there. This marketing strategy, according to Gary's email to Deb, is that City Hall is a strong draw for buyers looking at purchasing tracts in that development. This strategy is not in conformity with the plan city has always represented for this project. It was always communicated that the city will not spend money until others have invested in the project. I always understood that Village Center would be developed with the incentives authorized under the Chapter 380 agreement, the infrastructure afforded under the tiers. It was a stretch for the city to buy the land, but it did so with the express understanding and the representation to the cities, or to the citizens rather, that the land would immediately be sold to the developer. The city has spent the argument is now that if the city enters the contract to build City Hall, this will demonstrate to the developers that the city has a real interest. Well, the Chapter 380, the tiers, the land acquisition, the $480,000 spent on architectural plans, all sufficiently demonstrate the city has a real interest in and a commitment to this project. If Collaborate and its co-developers will not pursue the project without the city first entering into a construction contract, then truly the tail is wagging the dog. I strongly oppose the resolution. Let the co-developers, NewQuest and the Wellness MOB developer, break ground in June and July. When they've done so, when the city has sold the land, that's an appropriate time to consider should we enter into a construction contract. Otherwise, the city is effectively committing $18.7 million to a project where absolutely no one else other than the city has any real skin in the game. And for a city of this size to commit $18.7 million to a project before anyone else has invested a dime is nothing more than fiscally irresponsible. Earlier, you gave accolades to Greg Holden for his time served on City Council, and he's done a good job. We don't always agree on everything, but he's brought forth some good reasoning. And one of the things, I exchanged a text with Greg this morning, he said there needs to be some land sales before city commits to City Hall construction. For these reasons, I ask that City Council not approve the proposed resolution. And one final point to address this notion that we need to lock in the maximum construction price is when you're dangling to a builder a $10 million project, I think today that you could get an agreement with the builder that if we build it in the next 180 days and lock in a price, I think they would do that. So for that reason, I ask you to vote no to the proposed resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Last but definitely not least, Barbie Freeman.
I'll be very brief. First of all, congratulations to the mayor and the new council. I appreciate your stepping up, and you've got a lot of challenges before you. I also want to thank everyone that put their name on the ballot. Diversity of opinion is one of the things that make our communities so strong. This election could not have gone on without the incredible knowledge, hard work, and dedication of our city manager, or city secretary, Lori Cootie. She deserves all the kudos that you can ever find, because putting on a simple election takes a lot of time and diligence. To put on one like this, it's a massive undertaking, and we owe her a great debt of gratitude, and we're very blessed to have her as a part of Jersey Village. Lastly, I want to thank 4 ladies that spent almost 20 hours tallying these ballots. It is beyond comprehension how they were able to sit there and tally each one, do it not only expediently, but accurately. If there is a Hall of Fame for these 4 ladies, they would definitely be in there. Carrie, Shirley, Deborah, and Laura all spent, again, 20-plus hours tallying the votes. And I know it seemed like a long time to get the results, but considering all that they were challenged with, it was fast. Again, thank you. I appreciate all, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Barbie. Just to give everyone a sense of how efficiently they operated, I did the math. It was 1,288 ballots. You were voting on 10 different items, 3 candidates, 7 propositions. So that's 12,880 individual votes. If you take the 20 hours that it took to count it and you divide that up, that is 6 seconds per vote that was cast. If you're looking at an average election of about 700 ballots with 3 offices on the ballot, that's ordinarily done in just about under 6 hours at that rate. So that gives you a sense of how much work that team put in. So thank you to all of you. Okay, those are all of the citizen comments that I have, which brings us to the city manager's report. Austin, are there any parts of this report you'd like to highlight for council?
Mayor, council, the report's in front of you. Happy to answer any questions, but no, nothing major to highlight this month.
Any questions from council for the city manager? Okay. We will move on to the city secretary's report. Lori Cootie?
Yes, Mayor, my report's in the council packet. If there's any questions, I'll answer them at this time.
Any questions from council for the city secretary?
I have some questions due to the possible legal implications of the questions, and part of it is seeking advice from our city attorney. I would like to ask that we go into executive session.
Is that's a motion to move into executive session since it's not on the
If I
agenda?
have to make that motion, then yep, I make a motion to move to executive session so that we can discuss with our attorney.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to move into executive session. I assume, just to clarify,
Didn't realize that needed a vote.
well, out of precaution, everything happens by motion and vote. Just to clarify, I assume it's a motion to move into executive session on the basis of Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney?
Yes.
Okay, and we have a second. Is there any discussion on this motion before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those against? Abstentions? The motion passes. City Council is now going to retire to a closed session at 8:42 p.m. pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071. Consult with attorney in connection with the following item. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, conduct a private consultation in a closed meeting with its attorney about contemplated litigation and matters in which the duty of the attorney under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct conflicts with the act related to matters in the city secretary's report. We will return to open session and continue with the remainder of tonight's agenda after the closed session deliberations are concluded. The closed session was adjourned at 9:03 p.m. and no official action or vote was conducted during the closed session. Do we have any other questions from members of council regarding the city secretary's report?
No questions, thank you.
All right. That brings us to the consent agenda. Does any member of council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion during the regular agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilmember Wasson and a second from Councilmember Wubenhorst. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. All those against? Any abstentions? The motion passes. This brings us to agenda item H1, consider resolution 2021-28, electing a mayor pro tem. And this has my title on it. According to Article 2, Section 205 of the City Charter, Council shall, at its first meeting following the general municipal election, elect one of its members as mayor pro tem. The mayor pro tem shall act as mayor during the absence or disability of the mayor, let's hope that doesn't happen, and shall have power to perform every act that the mayor could perform, provided, however, that the mayor pro tem shall be entitled to vote upon all matters considered by the council. If the mayor and the mayor pro tem are absent from a meeting, council shall elect an attending member to preside over such meeting. At this time, we open discussion on this particular resolution. Or if anyone would like to make a nomination, certainly that would be entertained at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I nominate James Singleton for Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, we have a nomination for James Singleton. Any other nominations for the position of Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I'll nominate Michelle Mitchum. I think she's got some backup at home that could help her.
Her vast experience convinced you? We have a nomination for Michelle Mitchum. Any other nominations for Mayor Pro Tem? All right, do we want to just start with a bit of a straw poll to see where everyone stands, and then we can kind of settle on a motion? Or I'm open to however y'all would like to proceed on that. I don't know that we've ever had two nominations.
There's only two. I would just, somebody make a motion, somebody second, have a vote.
We could do that too. At this time, I would entertain such a motion.
I'll move that
we elect James Singleton as Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second.
There is a motion and a second on the nomination of James Singleton as Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the nomination? All of those against? I respect that. Any abstentions? The motion passes. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Singleton. Lori, actually, just to be sure, do we need to actually do that in the form of the resolution, or is that sufficient?
That's sufficient.
Okay, good. Next on the agenda, item H2, consider resolution 2021-29, assigning council members to serve as liaison to various city committees and boards. We don't necessarily have this assigned to anyone, Lori. Do you want me to handle this one?
I can present it. So this item is to look at all the different boards we have that are listed there in your packet. It gives you who is currently appointed and which ones do not have any appointment at this time. You'll need to go through that list and figure out how you're going to appoint those liaisons, and then you'll make a final motion with the names to approve the resolution.
So I will just say, I think typically the mayor does not serve in any liaison position. I get sort of the all other meetings with outside parties, I suppose. So that will, at the very least, open up the Golf Course Advisory Committee and the TERS number 2 appointments. So I think in the past, we have typically allowed senior-most council members to sort of take their pick, is there anyone that has any particularly strong feelings about not wanting to, well, not to say that you don't enjoy your position, but if you have an interest in another position, another liaison spot, I would be open to hearing that now so that we can kind of see if we can just come to an agreement on the assignments.
Since you're leaving the golf course committee, I'll put my name in for that one, but I don't want to lose the other one that I have.
I've been calling that for a while. I thought that you might want that one. So Councilmember Rubenhorst is seeking the Golf Course Advisory Committee, being the senior most, not in age, but in service, member of the council. Then generally, by convention, we've typically honored that. Is anyone else? We've got both TERS boards that are open.
So I have an interest in both TERS boards, and happy to vacate the Parks and Rec Advisory if I need to. I'd give somebody else a chance to be there, because I think there's some others that have extreme interest in that group, and might even be better served than me. So I don't have a problem moving. I'm really here to serve wherever I'm needed.
I'll take Parks and Rec.
And I'm happy to fill in the Building Board of Adjustment and Appeals for Greg's empty seat.
Okay, so if I have this correct, and I assume, Drew, you'd like to continue in your assignments as is? Okay.
That would be fine.
Okay, so if I have this correct, I have for the Planning and Zoning Commission and Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, Drew Wasson continuing in his current position. For the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Councilmember Shepard taking over for Greg Holden. We have Michelle Mitchum would be taking over for James Singleton in the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. For the Golf Course Advisory Committee, Councilmember Wubenhorst would be taking that spot. For the Board of Adjustment, Councilmember Wubenhorst would continue in his assignment there, and Councilmember Singleton would be the liaison for both TERS boards 2 and 3. Okay. Is there any further discussion on that? If there's none, I would entertain a motion on the resolution consistent with that assignment.
I move that we approve resolution 2021-29 as listed by the mayor, as long as Lori has that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. This brings us to item H3. Consider ordinance number 2021-22, continuing a mayoral declaration of local disaster due to public health emergency, waiving certain fees during the public health emergency, suspending the disconnection of water services during the public health emergency, providing restrictions on community gatherings, accounting for any potential conflict of laws, providing for a fine and an amount not to exceed $500 for each offense, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Austin Blease, City Manager.
Mayor and councilors, tonight we have this ordinance before council. At this point, staff feels that we do not need to extend the emergency declaration any further. There's three main reasons for this. One, there does not appear to be any further financial benefit to continue with this. There is a wide supply of vaccines already, and according to data that I just looked up, nearly 40% of Harris County residents have been vaccinated. So the ordinance 2021-13, the latest iteration passed by council, will expire automatically on May 18th. Any and all orders from the governor and county judge would still be in effect. By allowing the order to lapse, we'd have the following impact on our Jersey Village and the residents. One would be the processing and convenience fees for credit card payments would resume. Late fees on utility bills would no longer be waived. Water disconnections would resume, and the penalties for violating the signed ordinance would no longer be waived. We would certainly grant some businesses a grace period on that for sure. But we would want to communicate all those changes to everybody and make sure that everybody was not caught off guard by it. So right now, staff is recommending no action on this proposed ordinance and just to let the current one expire on the 18th.
Thank you, Austin. Any discussion on this item?
So we waited about 2 hours to walk away from Andrew's declaration. I'm good.
He's still here, man.
He was gone.
Any other discussion on this item?
Yeah, Austin, what's the county's position on this?
I think the county still has some of their orders in place, which obviously the ones that would apply to us, we still have to follow.
The only question I have, Austin, have we looked at how many homes or how many, I guess, water customers have been using this process to avoid, in other words, do we have anybody that we know has a significant number of bills that have been waiting without any late fees accumulating?
It looks like we only have 5 accounts.
Okay, so very manageable, okay. Any other questions? Staff's recommendation is to allow it to expire, which requires no action. Is there a motion from council members at this time? Seeing no motion, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, taking no action on this one. Item H4, consider resolution number 2021-30, setting a date and time to conduct the 2021-2022 council staff budget retreat. Austin Blease, City Manager.
Mayor and councilors, we've got 4 dates and times for the budget retreat this year: May 14th, May 15th, June 4th, or June 5th. We're happy to accommodate the council's schedule. Any questions?
Any discussion amongst council?
So the 14th is...
I was going to say the only date that's available for me is May 15th.
Well, that one works for me.
Works for me. I know it's not convenient for Austin, but...
Well, that long commute he has.
I'm here to work for the council.
If it wasn't good for Austin, it shouldn't be on the list.
But I am here to work for the council.
I do feel bad for Lori making that trek on a Saturday, but at least there won't be any traffic, or hopefully no traffic. Watch. Okay. So it sounds like everyone's available on Saturday, May 15th from 8 a.m. to noon. I assure you it's an exciting process, as most of us know. So we encourage the public to come out and hear us talk about the upcoming budget. It's one of the most important things we do as a council, is to set this is, of course, an opportunity to set general goals, which will then lead into our budget hearings or our budget meetings that happen in July, where we go item by item through the budget. And that's when the real excitement builds. It's just breathtaking. So there is a resolution. I would entertain a motion on it at this time.
Now, I'm going to make a comment on that. I spent last week in fire executive management training for Texas. And one of the classes, we took hours long class on budgeting, which we talked almost none about line items and how it's done. It was more about vision casting, and that government's budgets are truly a vision casting tool and a planning tool for many years to come, not just that one year. And budget meetings are absolutely, if you want to understand where the city's going 3 to 5, 10 years down the road, budget meetings are where you want to be. Discussion on City Hall, location, Village Center, TOD, that all of those happen for years in those meetings before those actions started occurring. So it's probably one of the most important meetings to ever attend, and normally has no visitors whatsoever.
That's a very good point. Any other discussion on this? I'd entertain a motion on the resolution at this time.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-30, setting May 15th, 2021 as the date and time to conduct the annual council staff budget retreat.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. So everyone put it on your calendar, May 15th, 2021 at 8 a.m. If we're lucky, maybe Austin will make us another brisket. Or maybe I will. We'll talk about that.
Brisket for breakfast?
Brisket for breakfast. Brisket, breakfast tacos, absolutely. Okay, moving on, item H5, consider resolution number 2021-31, appointing members to serve as directors on the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Board for the City of Jersey Village Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 3. Austin Blease, City Manager.
Mayor and councilors, we still have 2 spots for TERS number 3. We've got 3 appointees, and all their information was in the packet for you.
Thank you, Austin. Any discussion on this item?
How many do we need to appoint?
2. I'm actually curious, is this, so a lot of committees, those applications and appointments, this item would come from Lori. This one's coming from Austin. How is that different?
Because Lori wanted me to talk about this one tonight instead.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I missed what we're saying.
It's all good. I was just curious why the difference there. That makes sense.
Now, Austin, have we heard anything from, because are there still positions that we're waiting to see if other government entities are going to fill?
So we do not believe any of the other taxing entities are going to apply. They all were given a deadline of last month to get to us. We have not heard from our state senator, but as per state law, there's no real way for us to fill that spot if he chooses not to. His number would just roll off the committee, and we would have 8 for a quorum. 8 members, sorry.
I think you had indicated last time we discussed this that Representative Rosenthal was planning on making that appointment. Has that been done?
He has informed us that he wants to be on the committee.
Oh, he's personally going to
Going to serve.
Wow, okay. Any further discussion on this or any nominations from council members?
I just want to add a point. We've over the past year, I've seen versus the year before, I've seen interest in volunteers for City Grow. A lot more people are getting involved, I've seen fellow counselors applaud that because evidently the service was not as popular in the past. So I want to do everything that we can to broaden the reach and make sure that we allot appointments for those that, and not duplicate when we don't have to. With that in mind, I respect Barbie Freeman. I serve with her when she's on P&Z, and I think she does a great job for the city, as many alluded to tonight with the elections. But we have 2 other people that are interested in serving on the TERS board, and I would venture that candidates Hammerlo and Lopez be nominated. But I'm open to discussion.
I think that's good reasoning. I appreciate all the work that Barbie does, but I like branching out when we have the opportunity and providing opportunity for other people. I would support Modesto and Vicente.
This kind of fits in my criteria too, because I'd just like to see as many new people as possible get involved with the city.
I would agree. I mean, my prior time on council, I would have liked to have seen more people participate, and it's good that we are seeing some new names and faces coming out and wanting to be a part of the city. So I would agree with Modesto and Vicente.
I think it's especially impressive considering that the field of people who are eligible to serve is so small, and yet we actually do have more people applying than we have spaces. So that is very impressive. Any further discussion on this? If there's none, I would entertain a motion on the resolution at this time.
I move that, for Resolution 2021-31, that we nominate Modesto Jaramillo and Vicente Lopez to fill the 2 remaining spots on the TRAZ number 3 board.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All of those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. Which brings us to item H6, consider resolution number 2021-32, accepting the resignation of Crime Control and Prevention District Board members Andrew Mitchum and Greg Holden, and appointing members to the Crime Control and Prevention District. Lori Cootie, City Secretary.
Yes, so Mayor, I have received a resignation on behalf of Andrew Mitchum and Greg Holden to resign their positions on the Crime Control Board. In the past, it's been the practice of City Council to appoint the council members and 1 resident to serve on this board, which required council members to resign their position so that the incoming council members can serve. The terms would otherwise end on August 31. So with the creation of the Fire Control Board, it was set up a little bit different, where the board would be composed of the council members and the city manager. And the terms would end when the council's term ends. So it would not require a resignation for the Fire Control Board. This item is to consider setting up the CCPD board like the Fire Control Board is set up, or there's also a provision there for you to continue the practice. So the council would need to decide how they wanted to move forward with these appointments, but currently we do have the resignations from Board Member Holden and Board Member Mitchum.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion on this item?
Shows you not to pass over something that you think on the agenda is a rubber stamp. So I didn't pay attention to this one as much because I was working on other things. It makes absolute sense to me to just pass the resolution.
Meaning to align it with the way that the fire control is set up. I would agree.
I'll be honest, I've always wondered why why the original people set it up, put a citizen and then all the members of council. It makes sense to just go ahead and move to approve it.
Any further discussion? I would entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve resolution 2021-32.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. That brings us to item H7, consider ordinance number 2021-23, amending the capital replacement fund budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021 in the amount not to exceed $50,466.25 by increasing line item 0772-6572, special equipment, and at the same time approving a proposal to install a fiber conduit path across the Jersey Meadow Golf Course for future use, and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents with Greenscape 6 for conduit installation services at the Jersey Meadows Golf Course. This might be a unique occasion because we've got a golf course topic with Bob Blevins, IT Director, on it. It may never happen again. Take it away, Bob.
Mayor and Council, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. The project before you is to actually take the opportunity to run a fiber conduit across Jersey Meadow Golf Course so that we can eventually get a fiber cable out there. We have tried in the past to get a fiber cable out to the golf course. Right now, that's one building we don't have real solid communications to. It's currently using a point-to-point Wi-Fi connection between us and them. If that Wi-Fi connection goes down, their phone systems go down, their computer systems degrade slightly. Putting a fiber cable there's always been a goal for the IT department. We're looking at taking the opportunity while the berm and irrigation project is underway to be able to get that conduit pulled across there. Every time we go out there to try to do that, the irrigation gets in the way, and there's always concerns and issues that we're going to disrupt the irrigation system at the golf course.
Thank you, Bob. Any discussion on this item?
Bob, what kind of issues do you see in the future with that conduit being cut?
I mean, if the conduit gets cut, I mean, it just gets repaired like anything else would be. I mean, it would have to be a patch. The conduit is a pathway for us to run the fiber cable across the golf course. I mean,
Any
I don't
significant
see a lot
consideration?
of.
Any significant consideration to the path that you're taking along those lines?
No, there's, it's the vendor here that we're looking at is the same vendor that's doing the berm and irrigation work out there right now. So, I mean, care is going to be taken not to, disrupt any of the greens or any trees or anything along that line when we're running that path across there. They're the ones that are actually picking the path and which way they want to run it and how they want to run it across that golf course.
So the contractor who's doing the irrigation, they're going to put this conduit in as they're doing the irrigation trench for the electric lines for that. So we're going to know exactly where that line is in the future.
Yeah, that's a past place I worked. I just insisted on them creating a utility line across the property, and all utilities followed the same thing. We knew where it was, and it was safe that way. So I was just wanted to be sure that we were taking that into consideration.
Sure.
And I'm assuming by doing it at this point, while the construction's going on, and by using the same contractor, we're going to get synergies from that, and it will cost less to do that now as opposed to doing it at a later date after construction's completed.
There's definitely some cost savings being factored in here with the same vendor doing this. They've already got mobilization and everything. They're already there. They're already doing the work for the irrigation project. This is basically just piggybacking right on top of that at this point.
Now, Bob, just to be clear, this is just the conduit itself. This is not the actual fiber or any of the equipment that would be needed on each end.
That is correct, sir. This is just putting a conduit in the ground. We're not going to pull a fiber cable because we still have to get the fiber cable from the golf course all the way back here to the police department, which is our central communication hub. So that would be a future project to actually get the fiber in there. This is just getting the conduit ran across the golf course while there's an opportunity to do that.
So the cost is down to $8 a linear foot, which is a pretty decent price for this.
The average cost to put a conduit down with a fiber cable in it's about $20 a foot.
Yeah, that's with the cable.
That's with the cable.
And but it's still $8
But the
for
cable
the
is
conduit.
not the expensive part.
Yeah, this is a great deal.
What's the path you're taking from the maintenance barn to the clubhouse?
Yeah, pretty much from between the clubhouse and the maintenance barn right down number one. I'm not really exactly sure how they're doing it or where they're running it at, but that's the path. And then following the road from the maintenance barn out to the street, and that's where it would be coming into the golf course at.
Yeah, I just know there's a lot of trees along that route. So a lot of routes.
I don't think they're gonna go through, I mean, I don't have the exact path that they're really gonna plan on doing it, but I would assume they're probably gonna stay more over towards where the cart path is at. It's also possible, there's been some talk, they may go up, 9? Depends on which way they want to go into that. They've looked at both, but I'm leaving it up to them. That's their expertise, not mine.
It's always important to know when we're not in our area of expertise.
We will document where it went, though, and where it's at, and be able to find all of the pull boxes and everything. That will get documented.
Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion on the ordinance.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-23.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the ordinance? All those against? Any abstentions? The ordinance passes. That brings us to item H8, consider ordinance number 2021-24, amending the golf course fund budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021, in the amount not to exceed $80,000 by increasing line item 11-87-7010 golf course capital improvement from the golf course fund balance for a golf course restroom and other amenities. Robert Bassford, Parks and Recreation Director.
Yeah, good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. This is the final amenity of the 2018 berm project, in addition to the berm, along with the irrigation and the restroom that was proposed. We've done some work, the golf team and I, to strategize on where to most successfully put a restroom. With the price of construction and the price of modular buildings, it made more sense to do one larger restroom on hole 7 and 16, between those two. It also made more sense based on the current location of our sanitary supply line. Made the most sense there. This project will construct a new restroom comprised of 2 stalls per side, 1 sink per side, with a chase for supply storage. It will also feature a weather shelter that will allow for carts to drive underneath, and a restroom trail that runs across 7 to get to the restroom, and then a trail from the 16 tee box to get to the restroom. So those holes run parallel. This budgeted amount includes the necessary amenities such as the cart path, the granite trail, a turnaround, as well as the sanitary supply line. This $80,000 not to exceed estimate is for the entire project.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions for Robert or discussion on this item?
So what I'm hearing is the restroom on number 4 is no longer going to be there?
Correct. Yes.
Did any of the restrooms work? I thought all the restrooms were out except
the one on 4 does not work. The one on 7 is hit or miss. It's aged beyond its lifespan 3 times over, in my opinion. But yeah, so it'll be in the same area, just closer to our supply line.
They all look like their lifespan's gone.
For sure.
Any other discussion?
Yeah,
Robert,
I just wanted to say that, I mean, I think this is probably consistent with other golf courses as far as the number of restrooms that are out there. It's hard on the old guys I play with, but I'm not included in that, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, we looked, so basically 0, 7, 9, and then 16. So you have 7 holes of waiting. Based on our pace of play, that's a little under 2 hours, about 1 hour and 40 minutes per opportunity.
Now, Robert, I noticed there's no request to increase any interfund transfers or anything of that sort. I assume that this is being covered with the tremendous increase in business that has been witnessed at the golf course?
Yes, correct.
How long? I was just going to ask Robert, how long does one of these places last? Being out there in the weather and everything.
Typically, so it'll be designed similar to the starter shack, hardy plank and wood, so it'll withhold, will be up to code, and don't want to give you an incorrect answer, but a typical decent amount of time. I know that we're going to set up the sanitary to where that lasts a long time. They said we're going to over-engineer that one. But other than that, everything else could be repaired above the surface. And forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure the current bathroom there has been there for quite some time and it still functions.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve ordinance number 2021-24.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. Which brings us to H9, consider resolution number 2021-33, authorizing the city manager to authorize work to complete all 3 phases of the new golf course restroom from All Woodworks Construction for the bathroom structure, Greenscape 6 for the concrete path, and Mickey Service for the sanitary supply line. Robert Bassford, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Yes, so to continue off of the previous agenda item, this breaks down the portions of the project into the 3 specifics. Phase 1 of the project was the construction of the restroom. The not-to-exceed estimate came in at $49,900. I believe the more accurate one is near $48,000. About $130,000 was the most expensive by-board modular bathroom option. $130,000 cheaper, apologies. That was a total of $197,000. We also received another smaller option at about $137,000, and then we received a third option at $118,000. We felt that it would be wiser to go more with a smaller general contractor who can build it no problem, who has shown that they've been able to do so with our starter shack. And then the phase 2 would be the cart path, which would be installed by Greenscape 6. Not to exceed estimate is $12,000. I believe will come in about $10,000. We will save a lot of money there because they will pour that cart path while they're pouring the berm, so the concrete will be on site. That's a pretty big bargain there. And then running of the sanitary line from the manhole will be the final $18,000 provided by Mickey Service.
Okay, so obviously this is the companion item to the budget line item change we just made. So any discussion on this?
Yeah, as All Woodworks Construction, this is a company you've had quite a bit of experience with out there.
Yes, correct. They do good work.
I'm familiar with them and I recommend them.
Any other discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I move we approve resolution 2021-33.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any against? Any abstentions? The resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. We'll move on to H10. Consider resolution number 2021-34, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Brookstone LP for the construction of a new city hall. Austin Blease, city manager.
Mayor and councilors, tonight we have a potential agreement for the council to consider for the construction of the new city hall. The cost of the city hall, the guaranteed maximum price is just over $10 million. The biggest driver of these increases is the price of steel, wood, and concrete. Those 3 alone are $720,000, up from the $8 million where we originally thought when we looked at the project costs back in 2019. So we'd have to find budget funds in the upcoming fiscal year for that as well. So if the council were to approve something due to the volatility of the steel market, Brookstone would delay the commencement of the project until the delivery date of the joist, decking, and structural steel, so that can be confirmed and not cause a delay in the construction activities. We do have Ryan with Brookstone, who is here tonight, and I know that Saul from Collaborate is also here tonight to talk with the council as well and answer any questions related to to this project that the council might have.
Great. I guess if we do, is there any discussion before we bring up any representatives to discuss this further, or are most of the questions going to be directed towards the
No, I would
folks
like
with
to
us?
talk to Collaborate first, though.
Okay. Saul, if you want to come up. Saul, thank you for coming. Any questions for Saul regarding, because I know there are some concerns regarding where we stand with the project. As you heard during the citizen comment, there's some concerns from the public as well. So I'll open up to questions from council.
So I want to start with reminding, we had a conversation in February in executive session that I said, I'm not voting for this until we have money from Collaborate for the land. And several people that were up here, no longer up here, several of us agreed. And that's where I have problems here is I can't vote for this if I don't have land purchased. So back in 2019, when we first started this, we were going to buy the land. We made the first purchase, and then we were going to sell you that first purchase, and the second purchase you were going to make. But then, as alluded to earlier, the Tier 1 financing problem happened when that was caused by the high-speed rail, right?
Yeah, I'm on, yeah.
Yeah, that was the high-speed rail. It was a hiccup, understandable, but we've moved past that. That's no longer a concern. But we did lose the financing, and that's back when I remember hearing that there was going to be more of a structured plan and that the city was having more involvement in that. But I wasn't in the working group. I should have asked more details about it. So that moved us forward. And then in February, I remember, hey, we're going to have this on the agenda for March. And then it was going to have this on the agenda for April, and it's going to be soon, then maybe May. Now it's here in May, but we haven't yet closed, and I don't have a check. So I would like to know, I understand that there's closing dates for June 14th or sooner, but how much money, what parcels of land, is it still split into two pieces of land?
Actually, it's split among different pieces of land, more than the two.
Okay. So I remember the original $5.25 million parcel of land.
That's right.
By June 14th, are we closing on that and transferring that to you and getting the $5.25 million?
No, that is not the plan. Actually, we are at a place right now, probably around 18 months ago or something along those lines, sometime. That's when we went down the path of creating, based on what happened with the COVID and all that and the rail, we went down the path of adding all the different components, direct sale to the different co-developers, if you want to call it that. That's what happened. So the schedule that you have probably seen and that you're alluding to is talking specifically to each one of those components. So it's not specifically for the whole 5.2 million. Actually, there were two. I think it was 1.2 and 2.9.
Okay. So 1.2 to 2.9 million?
No. 5.2 and the 2.9. There were two tracts of land, yeah.
Yes, that's the two tracts of land. So we're closing on deals by June. Maybe I missed it in the answer, but what's the dollar amount that the city's going to receive by June, or around June 14th?
That's going to be, I think, is the Section K. I think that's the first one that we have scheduled to be sold. And the idea is to have all of the section be done by this year, 2021. I believe the first one is around $500,000.
Okay.
And then after that, it goes up from there based on the difference.
So that's more in line with the document we received today.
Correct.
That outlines the wellness building June 2021, Section K. The office building, July 2021, Section F. And that's, the tenant of that's been made public, right? I'm not gonna, okay. All right. The office building is expected to close in July. Is that correct?
Yes, so we're expecting to close the office building, the wellness area, and the retail within the next 3 months or so.
Okay.
I think that we have the, August is probably the furthest one.
I've been told by a couple people that on Tuesday night's meeting, the owner, director, the contact for the wellness building was not very concrete on how many people he had committed, and that he is not 100% signed and ready to build. Do you know anything about that?
Other than we have plans for the building, we have the letter of intent that we're working with and the schedule that has already started based on that. And that we're having multiple meetings with the potential tenants. That's all the facts that I can give you.
Okay. Okay. I think the big important thing there is we're looking at $500,000 by June 14th.
That's exactly right. If not, perhaps more.
Perhaps more, but right now
we're targeting that. Yes.
So my problem here is we have painted, everybody that's been up here all the way back to the Justin Ray up here this is not a build it and they will come thing. We are not building City Hall. We will not be first.
Yep.
This is us being first. And I have a very, very difficult time with that. I think Village Center is going to succeed. I have no doubt that Newquest is going to be able to get all the parties involved. No doubt that it will be successful. I've heard the train, all the things, but I also believe all the feasibility and the market research that's gone into this. I don't want to confuse Newquest tenants, wellness, the people in this office building. I have every intent to build City Hall right here. That's been the plan. That's what we've talked about for many years. I'm just not willing to be first. And I would like somebody else taking this ride with me.
Understand.
And we can have all the letters of intent that are out there. If we don't have money in there,
sure,
it's not the same level of buy-in.
Right.
I've got some other questions for Brookstone, but I'm going to hold and let.
Yes, I was involved with the subcommittee, as you call it, or whatever, with all the monthly discussions with you. And, again, I know you've got the letter of intent. There's no guarantee there. We said multiple times in those meetings that we needed something concrete before we would take that step to start construction. And now we've hit the deadline. Now, I understand that the outcome of this, if we don't approve this, is that we just don't enter into this construction contract, and it's a good possibility we will still do the construction later and we'll pay more. So it's going to cost the city. I would like to avoid that. And I would like to offer you a solution to see if you will go along with it. I mean, the city has held on to the property. We've saved you cost of capital for financing that. We have until the 14th to sign that contract, and that gives us a few days. But is there any kind of way that you could put up For me, I'd be satisfied with 100,000. Somebody mentioned a $500,000 earlier, but I don't need that much. I don't know what the other council members would be thinking would be the correct amount, but I'd like some kind of guarantee.
A lot more
And-
than that.
What do you mean by a lot more? Because you just said that purchase of the first property, which is a $500,000, was enough.
No, I didn't say that at all. I was asking how much they're going to bring June 14th. And he is saying that June 14th, we can expect $500,000 from the sale of parcel K.
That's the goal.
And that's not enough. If we're going to move forward with City Hall, I want to see half. $4 million is my bottom, very bottom.
Okay, well, that's each person's opinion here. So I'm going to go forth with my 100,000 and let the rest of council decide what's enough for them. But I can't okay this resolution without having a solid commitment.
So I was,
I was just gonna say, for me, I don't know that it's the money that's going to sway me one way or the other. I mean, you can pay me for the land, but if the development doesn't go off, we're still stuck with something that we don't want. So it's not just the money, it's about the commitment of the other developers and seeing ground broken by someone other than us. To that point, I think when we started down this journey, gosh, probably 10 years ago, our guiding principles for this was, one, we didn't want commercial warehouses, and we made sure that that didn't happen. And two, we weren't going to be the first. And so I think if we're going to stick to our guiding principles, we need to stick to our guiding principles. And it's not about the money, it's about the success. And we need to see movement in that direction in order to prove out that it is going to be the success that we think it is. I am very much a supporter of building a new city hall. Anyone that's here can see that the facility is aging and needs to be replaced. But I don't want to build it just for the sake of building it. I want to make sure that this is the right decision for the city. So that's my thoughts, is that it's not about the money, it's about the commitment to other parties, showing their commitment in the overall development.
I join James, Sherry, and Gary, and I'm committed to the success of Village Center. So I say that to you. I say that to all the other partners. I'm committed to having a new city hall of Jersey Village be a part of that. I'm not yet committed to making that decision tonight and committing to that on the basis. I concur. It's not about the money. It's about the credibility, where we've said we can go parallel, but we can't go first. And so that's my sentiment right at this moment.
Ultimately, you have to decide, what does it mean that somebody else is going first? What is the definition of what you're saying there?
I'll tell you what it means to me. I think if the moment somebody closes on this land, and I'm not worried about, like I said, I'm not worried about the money. The moment Section K closes, I would ask that we consider opening up a special session and voting on City Hall at that point. But until that happens, I can't, or until we make a condition on that, I can't. That's where I stand right now.
So I don't understand Section A, but is that the first contract?
That's the Wellness Center.
So I share my concerns with Gary on, if we wait
and the construction, the price of steel, the price of lumber keeps climbing and climbing, and we don't lock in this max bid, I think there is a level of comfort that we can find that is a middle ground here, where we don't lose that locked-in price at the expense of one more month. If we just look factually at the last month from a month ago today, it has increased by $500,000, the bid. $500,000 of our taxpayers' money is not something that I consider lightly. I campaign on fiscal responsibility, and to me, to gamble on that is not very responsible. So I agree there needs to be some skin in the game. I think we all agree that there needs to be some skin in the game. But I do think there's a compromise here at the table that we can come to that makes us feel secure, that makes him feel secure, that we can move forward.
So I know F is looking for they're looking for something real soon. And I'll come to whatever meeting you need and explain the intent, and we have every intention of moving forward.
Appreciate that.
Can't do that for $500,000. I need you in the boat with us a lot more than that. And I understand where you're at.
I'll just say, Saul, I want to make sure that we're a little clear on kind of how the timeline has developed. I know that we received this afternoon the schedule here, and I assume that the schedule are the proposed closing dates for the transactions? Okay. Do the wellness office building, the office building that's scheduled to close in July, and the retail scheduled to close in August, are those all under contract right now? Or are they all in due diligence?
Absolutely. Yeah, they are in the process of, the Wellness Center was the first one that we started, and we're waiting to get the other two going as well. So,
Do we have any idea what progress they've made on that due diligence, whether they're on track to need the entire time, or?
They are definitely on track. They expressed their interest even today in lieu of this meeting. But they're eagerly also waiting to see, about the city.
I get that. Did you say the retail's in due diligence already? Do you already have a contract for the retail?
No, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
But it's expected to close in August?
That the whole due diligence process is, it is expected, absolutely, just like the schedule says.
But I guess the reason why I brought this up is, has this shifted at all in terms of the timeline in recent days? This has been the way?
No,
Okay.
absolutely. It was what it has been for the last few months.
Okay. I do think that regardless of what happens here, that we definitely need to pick back up with the working group and continuing in regular communication, because I do think that there may have been at some points a little bit of miscommunication on some of the progress that's been made on these properties.
I'd be happy to. I think that's absolutely where we should go. I will say I'm not the only one that was surprised today to hear that we weren't getting $5.25 million June 14th, because people here told me that was happening.
Any other discussion on this item or any questions for Saul on this particular, or on the progress of the project?
Sorry. I would just like to know if there is any way that we could enter an agreement with Brookstone that on the contingency that we would close or vote with the contingency that one or two deals would close. So therefore, it would protect us. We wouldn't be building first, and then we could move forward with locking in the price and potentially saving $500,000.
I've already prepared a suggested replacement resolution for that. I was just waiting to talk to Brookstone before going to that, but I have a resolution that could do that.
If no other questions, if no one else has any other questions for Saul, thank you, Saul. We'll probably move to Brookstone to kind of look at the contract itself and understand kind of some of the factors involved here.
Good evening, I'm Ryan with Brookstone. So I've been with the project ever since we started working on it in 2019, so I'm pretty well versed on the contract side of it, the estimate, material escalation, anything you want to know.
I'd like to understand, I think it might be serve everybody here well if you give a little bit of history of how the price has changed in the steel market over the past maybe 2 months. And my research in calling some steel providers, people in the industry, is that we can expect, nobody can predict the future, right? But what I'm finding is that we can easily expect the price to increase 300,000 to 500,000 every month, unless there's a couple possible things in the market that might change that. But we absolutely could expect some increase.
No question. I mean, this is an unprecedented market right now, and if you would have asked me in January, I would have said it would have been, the volatility would have been over in March, April, May, and it's just getting started. I mean, what we saw last month was the craziest thing we've seen in our history as contractors. And so, yes, it's for sure not going to quit going up. At some point, the escalation is going to stop and the volatility is going to stop. We don't know when it's going to start coming down, unfortunately. So what you saw last month is probably a good predictor of what's going to be the next couple months. Hopefully by the end of the year we see it even out, but it's going to be much longer than that, we're afraid, until the costs really start coming back down. And that's steel, concrete, wood, any of the major commodities.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you wouldn't give us an extension, would you?
We're doing the best we can right now, I will say that. So literally, when we get a steel bid in right now, sometimes they're only good for a day. This one, we talked to our steel supplier and we got them to extend it to the 14th. And so that's what's driving our price on the 14th, is the steel and one other contractor. The majority of our contractors right now will hold the price till the end of the month, but they're all victim. Everybody has steel and wood involved somewhere. It may not be as a major component to their trade, but at some point they're a victim to the same markets that the rest of them are.
Any other questions? I will ask, are your steel suppliers primarily domestic, or are we talking about any steel imports? Because I know that, I guess the tariffs that were put in place are still in place today. Is that correct?
I believe the tariffs are still in place, and then shipping is also a huge concern right now. There's shipping container shortage. I'm sure you guys have heard about all that, which is also exacerbating the problem and preventing, tariffs aside, from steel getting over here. So because this project didn't have necessarily a requirement for American made versus non, I can't tell you where they're actually going to source the steel from, but my bet would be it's American steel.
Okay. One of the things that has been raised as a concern with pursuing this contract is the costs that would be incurred early on. Sort of based on the project schedule, the contract as it stands now has a provision for termination for convenience. Of course, that being under the condition that the termination follows with all of the expenses that have been incurred by you related to subcontracts or any orders made or anything along those lines would still be the responsibility of the city. Can you give us a sense of sort of, if we were to execute the contract now, what some of those early costs would be for the city over the next couple of months?
Sure. Yeah, I ran some numbers today kind of in anticipation of a question similar to that. And it's a complex question. I could get real construction nerdy here and talk forever, but bottom line, the first month, not a lot happens in procurement of the actual materials. What we do is a lot of paperwork, a lot of issuing of POs, a lot of shop drawings, which actually, guarantees that the steel is going to be what you ordered or what we ordered. All that kind of stuff starts happening. The problem is that these guys are trying to lock in their prices, and it goes down the line, 2 or 3 vendors removed. And so when you get to those guys that actually are sourcing the steel and shipping the steel in, when they get that commitment, they're counting on it right now, because if not, they would have sold it to somebody else. And so, fast forwarding through all that minutia, on June 14th, if we were just to pick that date to be consistent with the date that you were just talking to us all about, I think it's about a $250,000 spend, would be my guess, on what the risk would be, is if you were to terminate on that day. And knowing what the goals are, I can help adjust that and potentially even minimize that further. But if you were to ask me right now, that's my best guess on what that risk would be. Of course, the longer you go, the higher that goes up, the more materials are bought, and some people actually are going to start sourcing them, storing them here locally, waiting on that September or October date to start.
What will be, right now we're looking at a schedule where the majority of at least what's currently scheduled would be done or at least would close by the end of August. Do you have any rough estimate as to where we would be looking at through August? Is that included in the figure you just cited, or would it be a larger amount likely?
If you terminated in August, let's say, instead of June.
Correct.
Instead of June. Yeah, I mean, it's going to keep going up. I would say I didn't look that far and make the phone calls that far in advance. What then I would have to do is start hedging some bets on when their real threshold is, on when their prices are going to go up from their vendors and their suppliers.
That puts you in a real position too. That's a really hard way to do business.
Yeah, I mean, what we would do is build in a material escalation allowance, is what I would say would be the good, fair solution for that. And so after June 14th, I can pretty much say it's the $250,000 or thereabouts that I just told you. After that, I would recommend we increase the GMP and put an allowance in there for material escalation. Go ahead and sign the contract. I can guarantee everything that you let me go on. But the thing, when we come to that point on June 14th, then we all sit around and talk and say, okay, what do we feel? No, hold on this, Ryan, hold on this, or hold on all of it. And then we use that material escalation to mitigate that. But at least we've made some level of commitment to those vendors, and they're not just thinking that the job's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I assume that the price escalation would be not that different from, say, if you were doing the calculation for a new contract where there had not already been a contract signed. I assume that for the things that are still outstanding, the cost would be roughly equal.
It's going to be cheaper to do the material escalation allowance, because, like I said, then those guys know that that's their job. Right now, if we told the market right now, we had 150 subcontractor bids on this project, so the whole market in Houston knows about this project, knows that this project's about to start. If we tell them no, we don't know what's going to happen, it's fair game 3 months from now or whenever we were to rebid it.
Do we have a sense of how much cheaper it might be, roughly?
No, I mean, that's hard unless we sat around and really started talking details. No, but I can tell you it will be more if we wait until August and rebid it. Market doesn't like that.
Any other questions?
Hi, you might have mentioned it, and I think we estimated though that the cost might go up to if, let's say, the June 14th date. Once again, it's anybody's guess, but 250, 300 plus might be the cost if trends continue that we've seen.
Yeah, so you're talking about the option is if
we
approve a GMP today and then waited and just kind of sat on it and re-upped our price.
Or if we waited until June 14th to approve, did a new contract that's very similar to what we have, but you guys had to something along those lines, right?
Yeah, if we waited a month and re-upped our price just like we did this past month, I would say that you could probably figure that same $300,000 range would be my best guess right now.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'd just say that if we're dealing with this, the partners that we're expecting are also dealing with this. So, I mean, that's another reason why I would not want to enter into this agreement until we have commitment from others to break ground.
Okay. I was just going to say that is a good point, because if they're all dealing with the same price pressures, I assume they're not sitting around with a contract where they're accumulating materials or they're going to move at the pace which they believe is appropriate based on all of the same risk factors we're dealing with. So to me, I think Councilmember Shepherd brings up a good point that that's probably going to be one of the best measures for when is the time to jump in based on when they jump in. Which kind of meshes with what Councilmember Singleton said, which is we don't want to be the first ones in. When we see other people who have jumped in, who are actually moving forward, that's when we move forward. And I think, at least based on what I'm hearing from the comments, that at least from a majority of council, that seems to be kind of the approach we're taking here. Any additional thoughts on that, or am I completely off?
Well, I wasn't sure I would get this amount of support, or that people felt similarly to the way I did. So I brought a compromise just in case. And I'm not suggesting we use this at all. I actually suggest that we go ahead and take no action. That way, not to communicate to some partners that we're not interested, and let it expire on Friday. And then in June, we will have seen the closure of one land sale, and then we can come back with their proposal and put a resolution forward that includes similar language. Section 3, that the city manager shall make the agreements conditioned on the city's ability to terminate the agreement for convenience if by said date, probably August or wherever we decide we're going to put a line in the sand. It sounds like our costs are pretty low in the first month. The architect fails to complete the funding and purchase of the land associated with the project out of the property contemplated in Resolution 2019-27 approved by the Council on May 13th of 2019.
And if you could refresh our memory as to what the scope of that resolution was.
So this is the resolution that we're considering right now, is to authorize the city manager to sign with Brookstone on the construction project. And I'm not okay with doing that at all. And I'm really hesitant and frustrated with $500,000 by June. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that. Based on communication with people, I thought we were going to get a much larger check. And so this doesn't work for me to do today. Today, I think we need to just pass.
Well, I meant the 2019 resolution.
The 2019 was purchasing $5.25 million worth of land. And so, unfortunately, the timeline that he gives us is K, F, and C, which is the wellness, the office building, and the retail. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that doesn't equal $525 million worth of land, be my guess. But we're going to need to find some agreement where we are willing to sign with Brookstone, but we have money coming from Collaborate. And basically this amendment to the resolution allowed the city manager to move forward, but all of us vote now to tell the city manager to kill it if we don't get funding from Collaborate to limit our loss with the city hall building.
I'd be much more comfortable with just tabling it and then coming back. Whether or not we have to call a special session to do that or not, I think we need to have more discussion around it at that point in time.
I think for today, you're absolutely right. It doesn't sound like in June we're going to have a reasonable amount of money yet either.
And I kind of equate this to like locking in an interest rate when you're buying a home. I mean, if we had a crystal ball, we'd know whether or not this is, prices are going up or prices are going down. We don't know that. And so I'd feel more comfortable tabling it for at least another month and revisiting it at that point in time.
Does anyone have any thought? I know James has sort of given his his line of just so we can kind of give everyone some predictability. Does anyone else have any thoughts on sort of what the necessary, where at the point at which each of us feels comfortable with moving?
Yeah, I was, like I said, and I agree. I think I'm aligning with Sherry that it's not necessarily a financial commitment. It's a commitment, and I'm on the table of backing Village Crossing and the partners and Village Center and the partners and City Hall. I just need something to close.
I'm committed to this project. I would like to see the city save the money and get it done now. If we could come to some kind of terms with Saul. I've stated my position on it. We need the City Hall. Each one of us is going to have a different amount or a different volume of work that needs to be done over there before we'll commit to the City Hall. And I don't see that we're going to get an agreement on the exact amount between the five of us. That's just each person's feeling of safety. So I'm not sure we're going to get anything done tonight on this myself. But unless the other player in this game has some idea for overcoming this, and that's the only thing I can see can happen.
Sorry, I agree with Sherry that it's not really about the money deposit for me, it's about closing on the land. And I think there's a compromise we can make there to get that.
Because I think we're all committed to the project. I think we just don't want to be premature.
So I just, the way things are on sometimes, you're closing retail and hospitality. Oh, that is 2022. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at least for me, I will admit, I started the day thinking that we were talking about the $5.25 million plot because we didn't have any negotiated change in the sales agreements. Obviously, it's a little hard to close on a sale of a piece of land if it's not replatted, if we don't have a sales agreement that actually defines something different from what we already have. So I think that probably led to a lot of the confusion because all we have right now are sales agreements with Collaborate for 2 pieces of land. Without some sort of replatting, without some sort of an agreement that has something else to give, it's a little hard to then turn around and have that available to sell to Collaborate so that they can turn around and sell to their sub-developers. So I think that there is still a little bit of work to do on that front. And again, I think that's where a lot of communication needs to continue. And hopefully we can also continue to communicate about ways to try to find a resolution to this that will satisfy everyone, that will satisfy the need to bring in and close the deals with these sub-developers while also ensuring that the city's concerns and the concerns of the citizens are addressed. And that we are not just building and then finding out that we're there by ourselves in the middle of woods. It needs to be part of what is going to be a vibrant, multi-use development. It doesn't mean that City Hall has to be there with it 100% built out. Obviously, that's not happening here in the next couple of months. But if we can find a way to expedite this, to get everyone on board, to get this closed sooner so that we can make that commitment as a city, I think that's should be our goal, and hopefully we can work together to try to find a way forward with that. Any other further discussion on this? I get the feeling we're probably moving towards no action, but I wanted to make sure everyone had an opportunity to ask any additional questions or make statements.
Well, that was what I was going to ask Lori. Procedurally, should we make a motion to table or no action?
No action.
And then, Mayor, just so staff is clear as to what would come back next month, what is the council looking for next month?
Closing stuff sooner. I think, at least from what I'm hearing from those who have expressed a sort of a line at which they are ready to make a commitment,
I think we have to have probably closings on K, F, and C. Am I, not to make sound like it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, C, F, and K, let's just call it that. Does that seem fair to everyone else, that that's kind of our bright line for where we're willing to make a commitment?
My line is K. Minimum.
So C brings in retail, and that means NewQuest buy-in, which means that means they also buy in G and H. Mine is money is buy-in. Money's skin in the game. And I agree it's not the only thing, but it shows follow through. So if we're able to close on K and F and then C, if he shows that we're making progress and making land deals, then yeah, I can move forward.
So just so I'm clear, it's a closing on K is the next point at which staff will work to bring something back to council.
The reason why I ask is because I also don't want, it's a lot of work, I would assume, to go out and recalculate everything. I want to make sure that when we ask this gentleman to once again develop the guaranteed maximum price, that it is something that is likely to get support of council before you wind up doing it all over again.
I would appreciate that, yes, and so does the market, and that'll reflect in the pricing too. So, what I can say, and Austin knows this, it takes about 10 days or so to validate that pricing. So, if that gives you a guidance, I just need a little bit of time ahead of that, and the most that we can communicate to the subs that are already basically committed to it, the more heads up we can give them, the better the better we'll treat them, and the better they'll treat us.
So I would say that if the property closes on June 14th, there's no way this comes back to council in June. We just don't have enough time. It would be July at the earliest.
I think at that point, that's probably, we're going to be closer to having, assuming in July that we have both K and F closed and C on the verge of closing. I think that at least, it sounds like that's probably a line at which we have a majority of council willing to move forward.
And that's something I can move forward with, but we've had follow through, and then we use the amended language I worked with Justin to make that if the retail doesn't come in, then we've already decided we back out.
I guess the question I have for you, we're looking at an August meeting now. July. Is there a possibility that the construction costs would be at the 11 million mark by then?
Fair question. It's a tough one to answer because I just don't know. My gut would tell me no, not do
I
it.
understand that you don't know.
My gut would tell me no. I don't think it's going to jump $1 million in 2 months time frame. However, one component that we haven't talked about yet that's a factor in all this is the schedule, and I know that that's not necessarily driving to you guys, but it does become a market factor back to me. And so Austin mentioned the steel joist earlier. That's by far the hardest commodity to get right now. There's only 2 manufacturers in the U.S. that make them, and Amazon's pretty much bought up one of them. And so they're dictating their own schedule, their own price, everything. And you need joists to build this building. So right now, if we released by May 14th date, we would have the joist in December or maybe January, which is what drove the September start date that I proposed. If we miss that window, they're saying now it's going to be February, March till we get joists if we were to approve in the June timeframe. If we wait till July, August to approve, I have no idea where that market's going to go. It's not going to improve. And so that's going to drive the start date out. I know that doesn't mean anything to you guys directly, but what that does is then it affects my drywall guy, it affects my plumber, it affects the HVAC guy, everybody else that can't necessarily hold their price as long. So it just creates a little complex situation for us. But
sorry, I was just going to ask.
It's nothing we can't solve. I mean, we do this on a daily basis with multiple clients, but it's just, I'm just telling you the facts.
Yeah, Saul, I don't know whether you know this or not. Do you know whether or not any of the groups that have signed that are in the midst of due diligence do you know if they currently have contracts for the construction of buildings that they're putting in there, or is that something they will do after they close?
Process of design, and there's some already preliminary pricing that has come back from those. So yes, there's a lot that's happening in the background, not just the sale of land. There's design taking place, and there's construction costs and budgets and, pre-DMP numbers that are being.
But they're still in the same place we are, where they've not yet locked in those prices. So, I mean, again, we are not, I will say this, people who work in that industry have I'd say it's pretty confident they have a better feel for what the market is and what the market would likely do. And I think that that's a good indication perhaps for how we should sort of view the when to wait, when to jump in, because they're going to have probably a better sense of the risk, and when the risk is too high either to jump in or too high to keep waiting. So I think we should, if we stay in communication on that, I think that hopefully will provide us a little bit better sense of what's the right time or to really make a commitment once we at least feel like we have enough there to feel like we're not going to be either the only one there or, honestly, I mean, I get K is a good start. My only concern is you are talking about property across the street. City Hall's still kind of sitting out there by itself, even though it's got a neighbor across the street. For me, at least, having K and F is, at least from a development perspective, seems more complete, even though it's not all of it.
Yeah, that C is the retail, though, and that's the vision. That's the vision. That's the one that confirms this is.
When is K&F projected to close?
Hey, Saul, there's a lot of people watching online. Do you mind coming up to the microphone?
Let me open my document real quick. Which one? What was the question? I'm sorry.
K&F, when are they projected to close?
So we're looking for the wellness and the office, which is the K and the F, in the July timeframe.
Any other questions? I do think it sounds like we're in agreement that we're going to take no action on this item at this time. But if there's any other discussion?
Just want to make sure that Austin has guidance that he needs.
So if I understand the direction, once K sells, we give Ryan a phone call and say, let's get the new price, and then once that's ready, we bring that back to council. So K is the point in time.
Gary, do you have thoughts on that? Your face tells me you do.
I wasn't hearing that, so I'm not sure. You might want to take a poll.
Well, I think
I think that would be the indicator. If I understand the timeline correctly, that gives enough time for Brookstone to go back to reassess, reprice, and then bring it to us by July, which at that point, according to the schedule, we should have pretty well with the office and then on our way to retail.
Well, if you're right, if by that timeline we end up at the July meeting, KF have closed, we sign a resolution with the amendment that I'm proposing, then C is guaranteed. If C falls through, then so does our deal.
Also, maybe the best way to move forward on this is, I think the working group's going to need to be involved to keep track of, because obviously things could change. Maybe they move faster, maybe things get delayed. We kind of need to, instead of focusing right now on a set date that we are definitely going to bring it back, we keep an eye on it, and as soon as we feel like we have enough moving forward to bring it back to council based on the feedback we've received, that we go ahead and schedule a meeting, even if it has to be a special session to get the ball rolling.
All right.
Everyone in agreement on that? Okay. So unless anyone has a motion, we're going to move forward from this. All right. Okay, that brings us to mayor and council comments. I am going to spare our newest members from having to go right off the bat, and I'm going to start down at this end with Councilmember Wubenhorst.
I don't have a lot to say, but congratulations on the new members' positions, and my thanks to the members they replaced on their service, and we'll move on.
Ditto to what Gary said. I look forward to Village Center. I look forward to all the great things the City of Jersey Village is going to be. Don't forget, we are going to have a July 4th parade this year. Looking forward to that. James Mcdonald highlighted it. There's been way too much back and forth on social media. If you ever notice, it's the fire back and forth real rapidly that gets real ugly. And if you take, write out your response, take a minute, wait 5 minutes, come back to it. You'd be amazed. You might refresh your comment and remind each other that we're neighbors. Okay. I'm going to address somebody pretty directly called out Michelle. This is nonpartisan, and I get the red versus blue game, and you want to point fingers at each other, whatever. I campaigned for Michelle. If I thought for a second she was interested in defunding the police, wouldn't I be the first one to say I'm not supportive of Michelle? That's pretty low, underhanded attack that I don't has any merit.
Councilmember Wasson. I'll third the welcome to our newest members, Sherry and Michelle. It's great to have your perspective on things, and I look forward to the next year with you guys. And thank you. Welcome to everyone of our citizens that stayed. Thank you guys for toughing this out. It's great to have citizen participation in this. It's a little one day late, but happy Mother's Day to everyone, especially. And other dates, May 17th, property tax protests are due unless you had a deadline after that. So remember, but keep May 17th in mind. And there's an exemption for freeze damage. I don't know much about that, but if you had freeze damage, you might be able to apply for an exemption as well. So check with HCAT on that. And finally, biggest date I think I'm going to mention is Memorial Day is in 3 weeks. And let's remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice so that we could do what we do up here and maintain our freedoms and representative democracy.
I'd just like to say thank you to former Mayor Mitchum for hanging out with us until 10:30 tonight. You could have left and walked out, but you didn't, so thanks. And thanks to everyone else who stayed. Again, it takes a village to run the village, and so we appreciate all of the input from our citizens. So thank you.
Oops. I'd like to say thank you, everybody, for giving your input. Boy, was this a great first meeting. I appreciate the constructive feedback. I appreciate the back and forth of different opinions. I think that's not a negative thing. I think that's positive, and us five can come up here and do that and still be really good friends. Really speaks volumes. Thank you, James. I'm still the vice president of your fan club. And thank you for electing me. I look forward to the next 2 years.
All right. In addition to what everyone else has said, obviously, welcome our 2 new members, Sherry Shepard, of course. Having been here before, we're very glad to have her back with her experience, and of course, a fresh face in Michelle Mitchum. I also wanted to thank everyone who voted for me, who entrusted me with the gavel and to represent the city. Although the mayor does not have a vote typically during council meetings, as we move forward, particularly with economic development and trying to really market the city, that's going to be my focus, is to try to get out there and be an ambassador for the city and to put the best face forward that we can to attract businesses that fit the character and the needs and wants of our community. To that end, I think that it's always important to keep in mind that when we are working on your behalf as council members, we, of course, your feedback is extraordinarily important. And so many of you reached out during the last day or two regarding some issues of concern on our agenda. What I would encourage you to do, however, is, and this is something even that we as council members, I would encourage us to do, is that it's important that we not just talk at each other on items of concern or our positions on some of the issues of importance to our city, but to have an actual dialogue. For example, there were a lot of people who emailed me that it was clear that there was a copy and paste, because I got about 8 emails in a row that had the exact same wording, one after another after another. I'm pretty sure that those people are not exactly of like mind on all issues, and I'm pretty sure that not all of those people necessarily had the same questions about those same issues. That's really talking at someone, not having a dialogue with them. I would encourage anyone who has a concern about any issue concerning their city government to reach out to council members to ask questions, to say, hey, is there a time where we can set up a phone call? Is there a time where we can go grab some coffee or a beer or whatever the case may be? Certainly with vaccines becoming more prevalent, that's becoming safer and safer every day. Let's have a dialogue. As James mentioned, we've seen a lot of incivility on social media, and that's not isolated to us by any means. That's happening everywhere. I have found that people who tend to be uncivil on social media have a much harder time being that way when we're all face to face. We don't have a tendency to just yell at each other and call each other names and things of that nature. It tends to humanize the conversation and allow us to actually have a dialogue. And believe it or not, even people who disagree on many, many, many issues can have a very civil, productive dialogue. I urge you to give it a try. And by that same token, I urge everyone on council to make a commitment as we enter into this new council year to really engage with people. If you get emails, if you get phone calls, or whatever the case may be, I definitely encourage you to take that chance to engage with citizens and to answer their questions and to learn more about their position just as much as they're trying to learn more about what's going on with their city council. So democracy is not a spectator sport. It is a participant sport, and we encourage you to participate to the fullest extent. I know I'll continue to try to improve as far as I'm concerned with my participation in this whole process. So thank you to everyone. I appreciate you all staying so late into the night. With that, we will go ahead and adjourn.